What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mind Over Mic podcast. Happy New Year. Happy 2026. I'm very excited to continue this show and to continue bringing you fun conversations from all different types of guests for the next year. Thank you so much for joining me. To kick off this year, I've asked a very special guest to come in, someone who I've talked to quite a bit about the prospect of coming in and talking about her experience. I think Brynn's awesome, and I think this conversation is mostly about stand-up comedy, but really the themes of the conversation are things hopefully we can all relate to. Things like overcoming struggles in life, things like chasing your passion, triumph, obsession, failure. Really important topics, and I think this is a good one to listen to for anybody. So enjoy the episode with my good friend, Miss Brynn B.
Center mass. I love how that's described. You're making this way less scary, like you're going to definitely not put me in a trunk later. So that's cool.
I feel very strongly that the stronger I try to convince people to come on the show, the more it feels like I'm trying to abduct them.
You're like, listen, everything's totally normal here. You go upstairs in my apartment. Yeah. I will give you a Joe Camel mug, and
yes,
you don't look at what I put in there. It's totally fine.
There's a mug purchased with camel bucks.
Mm-hmm. I'll sniff the milk before I give it to you. It's totally normal.
I had to do the sniff check on the milk for sure.
I appreciated it.
I don't know. I feel I really want to have weird guests on. That's the whole idea. Like, I love having comics. This is like a breeze for me.
Yeah,
easy. But then, having like chefs or whoever, like whatever, politician, who knows, down the road. Mm-hmm. But convincing someone to come to your apartment is weird. Like, how do you, I don't know. The stronger I push for it, the weirder it comes off too. So I just go, hey man, if you ever want to do this thing, that'd be cool. And I've had a few, I just, trying to figure out how to work around this. There's a local business owner that I am a big fan of their business. I've been going a long time. Mm-hmm. And I've had several businesses on now. And when I reached out to him, he was like, I would, but that's just not my thing. So maybe one of my employees could, and that we might do that soon. But I really wanted him. You know, it's his business.
Yeah.
So I really wanted him. So that's a little disheartening when that happens. But all I can hope is like maybe I'll have an employee and they'll report back and then he'll change his mind. Who knows?
Is it not his thing to potentially get abducted in somebody's upper room?
I believe that's it.
Or just a podcast in general?
There's maybe some concerns about safety. I think he's sending in an employee to feel it out first, maybe.
He's like, I'm going to send this guy that's like 250 and 6'4". I am a slight man who could really easily be tied up.
He is a slight man. Well, the other thing about, that situation is like, I know this guy. Like, I've been going in this business for a decade or more, and like we've talked about doing a don't tell in his space and all this different stuff. So I kind of roughly know of him. But as far as like, it's still weird to be like, you want to come to my house?
It sounds so much worse when you say it like that. It is,
and a lot of people do it just like on their couch. Like my friend John Bass, who I love, shout out to John. He's Don't Tell Lexington, and he has a very fun podcast. I've done it, and it's just like on his couch, and he wheels out a cart that has the microphones and stuff, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But that sales pitch has to be hard.
Oh yeah.
Because I at least have like a photo of this space that I can go, look, there's something in there. You know?
There's soundproofing so the neighbors won't hear me when you scream. You know.
There's rope in the corner. I keep that over there.
The leather straps are in the closet.
Yes, that closet is debaucherous. If you open that closet over there. It's also like this building that I live in is pretty old, so when you see it from the outside, you're like, man, that looks like a place that you'd go to die.
For sure, It's a no vacancy sign out
But
front.
You're here, and that says something about you.
I did. I drove up. It says a lot more about me than you, I think, for sure.
Yes, it does. It's all right. Your kids will be well taken care of.
I'm sure, yeah. Listen,
it's all done.
I can't do it myself, but if you can take care of me, they'll live on that life insurance policy for a minute. Sure. You know what I mean? I've looked it up. I've looked into it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a good number. Now, let me ask you, because I do think it's fun to hang out with comics. We do that all the time, like after shows and stuff. Sure. And you and I have talked a little bit, like off air, about comedy and stuff. But talk to me first a little about, like, outside of comedy, your world is like, it's normal, I think, is maybe, and maybe that's subjective, but like most comics don't have kids or like a steady life or a career, job, success, happiness, all the things that you maybe have, and maybe you don't, I don't know, but like talk to me a little about that, because I don't know a ton about I've seen you 1,000 times, but never outside of our world.
Yeah. So I am old. That's the first thing. I'm 43.
Got it.
And so I started comedy less than a year ago. It'll be a year in March. So
that is a late start.
I'm a baby, but for an old lady. And And I have 2 kids. I've been with my husband for 20 years.
Wow.
And it depends on which day, if we're happy or not.
Sure.
He might give you a different answer, to be honest.
That's probably the best answer.
Yeah. And I'm a sex therapist.
Yeah.
So I
did know that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say my life is normal, actually.
That's true.
Normal is relative, I guess. But I've got a 14-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter, and they're fucking feral, and it's amazing, and we love it. And we homeschool, kind of. I think that's what most people do if you're not Amish.
Sure.
Yeah, our daughter goes to forest school, so they run around outside and learn how to garden and use math. It's so cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Locally. That's a thing locally.
For sure.
Wow.
And our son has ADHD off the charts and just is fucking wild. And so he does he wants to be a mechanic. My husband builds dirt bikes and motorcycles, and so that's how he learns, and he is great at it.
Wow.
They dirt bike, and I don't like any of that shit, so I'm just if I don't have to see it or smell it, live your life. And it's
I'm going to write jokes.
It works. I'm going to go write jokes, and then I'll be here by 3 a.m. like the normal mom.
That's a good compromise, though, to be you can have your life that I don't understand, as long as I can have my life that you probably don't understand.
Listen, after so long together, there's a lot that you just get over so fucking fast.
Yeah.
I have jokes about it, but I am one of the rare females, I think, that was born without any fucks to give. I've just never cared. And so I am the partner that's just I don't care. You want to buy this bike on Facebook and it doesn't run, whatever. Just put it in the shop. I don't want to see it.
Go for it.
Go for it. Whatever.
Yeah.
Can we pay our bills? Can we eat? Cool. That sounds great.
I mean, I guess as long as your basics are covered, it's all.
We're not trying to get rich out here,
Yeah, that's an interesting. So, and I think I don't know if you know or not. I had probably my favorite guest I've had to date on the show is a psychologist, genius man who I adore. Dr. Graham Disk, and he came on a while ago, and we talked ad nauseum about the correlation between psychology and stand-up. There's a ton, and I think I was maybe more aware of it than most, just because my mom's a psychologist, so I grew up under that umbrella a little bit, and I see the parallels. He talked about it a lot. Now, when you throw in sex therapy specifically, now that's a whole other twist on there. So talk to me about what's the parallels that you've seen, or is there any? There has to be. Obviously, there's a lot of jokes that come to mind.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that's material for days.
Yeah. It's the tricky part is there's so many, ethical and legal expectations that you have to follow as a therapist, which is ass, first of all.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's so much. But I am very fortunate that the clients that I keep are people that, are great to work with. They're people that tend to be more high-powered people when you live in a shitty little area, and they want discretion. But most often what I find, because I'm from Ohio, so I'm not from the South.
Okay.
Most often what I find is it's a lot of religious deconstruction before we can talk, because they come in and they're like, I think I'm a sex addict. And I'm like, probably not. Let's talk this out,
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of parallels between what you hear comics talk about are typically things that they're ashamed of.
Yes.
And they get up there and there's a lot of self-deprecation, and people come to my office with a shit ton of shame. That's what it is.
Shame.
It's just I'm embarrassed because I have this thing, and it's this, maybe it's a proclivity, but maybe it's just, I like to have sex a lot and my partner doesn't. And what's wrong with me? And it's that's fucking normal. What do you mean,
Yeah, I guess that's an interesting point too. And I mean, I grew up in the South, so I can relate in a big way to, and some of it, maybe is a little personal for the world to hear, but definitely in a big way. I think the religious trauma plays a huge factor, family shaming and things like that.
Yep.
And I grew up as a young boy to a single mom who was a teenage mom and really had no awareness of boys' sexuality or anything. So I think in a lot of ways it came as a shock to her system when it started to develop, and then shame was just a knee-jerk reaction. It's I don't really blame her for that.
Yeah, for sure.
But one thing I heard a lot growing up was men are gross. Yeah. You're not going to be one of them. Your grandpa's gross, your dad's gross, everybody's gross. And they're not wrong.
Right.
What they're saying is correct, but the approach maybe wasn't great at times. So I mean, that the geographical factor
for sure plays a huge role. And I spend a lot, I would say probably and I work, one thing that somebody said that has always stuck with me is it's not typically the person that needs therapy isn't who seeks me out. It's the victim.
Oh yeah, sure.
And then, and victim's a strong word, but I don't mean that as like a sexual assault type situation. It's more like, hey, something in our relationship isn't working, and I just need them to come and like hear it because they don't listen to me, they don't hear it from me. Which you know, it's like when you're a kid and you don't trust your parents, you don't think they know anything, and it's the same thing, you know.
Yeah, and I guess if you're a product of that shame or that, maybe not even shame. Like a lot of times in my experience in my family especially, and I think most Southern like religious families, it's either shame or total avoidance of the subject. And I would maybe even extend that to like education. Like 1000%. In school, I don't think anyone would argue that we're failing as far as sex ed goes. At least 1000%. Mine. And I don't think I've said this before on the show, but I used to try it on stage. We had in high school, we had sex ed. I think we had it in 6th grade for like a day. Yeah. Like before you go to middle school. And then maybe there's something I don't remember there. But high school, I know that we had a health class. It was mandatory when you're a freshman. Jesus. And they would combine all the girls and boys into one room, which is already just
you're blowing it.
Asking for it. Yeah. And like 1 week out of that semester was sex ed week. Like 4 days or something.
Everybody loves it. They're so excited.
We were tuned the fuck up. We were ready to go. The only thing I remember from the whole experience is there was one day where we were all in the chorus room. So there's hundreds of kids, hundreds of 14-year-old kids in there. All the boys, of course, are like linked up in the corner with their friends and stuff. And they give us all a red, yellow, and green card. And they were like, we're going to say situations. Oh. And you have to raise the card based on like, green means go, you're fine, no worries. Love Yellow means like be cautious, you know, tiptoe.
And red is like you're gonna get chlamydia and die. For sure.
You're gonna die. This is bad.
You're pregnant. Yeah.
But they were doing this to 14-year-old boys, so they'd be like, you know, whatever, like kissing in your room with the door shut, and we'd hold up green and be like, yeah, and they'd be like, stop it, like they get mad, and then they'd be like, you know, holding hands at church, and we'd hold up red and be like, no, and they like it just backfired immediately. That's sex ed in Bristol City Schools. That's literally all of sex ed.
Oh my gosh.
That's what I learned about sex ed school. So I mean, I'm sure you're running into generations
for
of
sure.
That.
The thing I hear the most, honestly, that is like so shocking for me is when I say like, okay, well, what if I do what's called like childhood and sexual history? So it's not like your life story. You can tell me what you want. I don't need to know all of it.
Sure.
But it's important to know, you know, at what age were you exposed to different anatomy and different you know, body types? At what age did you know what sex was or thought you knew and things like that? Were you exposed to things like pornography, which is different generationally? But like, I swear to you, probably 8 out of 10 people that are, what are you? You're in your late 20s?
26.
Yeah, so your age to my age, they say, oh, well, my parents gave me a book. Really? What the fuck book was circulating in the Bristol?
I didn't get no book.
I'm telling you, it is like...
I got told to quit doing that.
Their parents straight up gave them a book and just like, I guess threw it in their room and left. I don't know what happens. Like, I'm like, I don't know what this mysterious... I'd love to see this book. If anybody's out there and you're watching this, I want this book. Like, bring it to me, please. I need this book. But yeah, it's just nobody talked about it. And so I think there's inherently shame when you don't talk about things.
Oh, yeah.
And when you don't know and you want to ask questions, but it's this like offhanded thing you're supposed to be quiet about.
Sure.
And so you find out the way you find out, and sometimes that's good and sometimes it's not, you know.
Sometimes it's not. I will say, like, mine is maybe a little bit hyper negative, like my experience with that growing up, just because of the lack of like a male role model in my life. I'd never had the talk.
Yeah.
I didn't have someone to sit me down and go, here's, you know, boys do this, girls do this.
To be fair, lots of people have both parents and they still they get the book.
They get the book. I didn't even get a book. But yeah, I think I probably missed out on some level of, maybe not even the talk, but just some like male guidance on the subject, you know. All I ever saw was the very negative side of it. That's really it. Everything else was sheltered.
And I think too, around here, I get, obviously you mentioned the religious trauma piece, and that's huge. And I have lots of jokes about that. Like, because I wish that I could come and tell a joke and be like, oh my God, like, because I worked with adult male sex offenders for 3 straight years.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was actually, so I went to Christian grad school somewhere.
Amen.
And amen and amen. Yes. And had a little run-in with one of the professors there who said, it's shocking, I'm sure. I'm glad you're seated for this. This is a revelation. Are you ready? And they said...
Revelation's one of my favorite books.
Right. They said, they started the class and goes, I just want to, let you know I will not see gay and lesbian couples because I will not help them sin. And my arm shot up so fast. And I said, and I knew no one. This is like a dead beginning of the semester. And I said, I just wanted to congratulate you. I think that is so great because what kind of harm would you cause them? Like you like insane, insensitive cunt. You know what I mean? And so then she answered that. They don't really
want you either.
No, not at all. She answered that by placing me for my internship at an adult male sex offender treatment program. And joke's on her because I would have done that forever if they didn't close because I loved it. But
that does feel, I mean, I think it's a weird sales pitch, again, to be like, I used to do this. It was great. It's like, it doesn't sound perfect.
But listen, those are my people, though. I want people who are those that nobody else wants, and that's a parallel with comedy too. It's like we're the most of us are the throwaways, right? We're the cast-offs. We're the ones that were weird.
Misfit toys.
Yeah, for sure. And like I know you're friends with Travis Stevenson, and he told me something really fuck that guy. Early on, he said something, and it really stuck out to me. He had heard me do a set about losing a bunch of weight, and he's like, "It's so crazy because I really think." I don't understand how comics could be successful if they don't have a story like that. Like, you had to be fat, you had to be ugly, you had to be cross-eyed or poor, and I was like, man, I was like almost all those. Like, rack it up, you know?
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. I'm going to tell you about a couple shows I have coming up. Very fun shows. On January the 10th, we've got our next Don't Tell Tri-City show. That is our first show of the year, and I'm very excited to be doing that. We've got a brand new venue and a brand new headliner for that one. So that's this Saturday, the 10th. Come on and check that out at 8:30 p.m. On the 24th is my next Don't Tell Tri-City show after that. That is a returning favorite headliner all the way from Nashville, and I absolutely love that guy. Can't wait to see him. That one's going to be a lot of fun. A couple days before that, on the 22nd, I'm down in Tellico Plains, Tennessee for a show that I'm doing with former guest of the show, Mr. Casey Shearer. That's always a good time. I love seeing Casey, and the lineup's pretty hot on that one. So if you happen to be nearby the little town of Tellico Plains, come and see me. Let's jump back into the episode.
But I think that's like super interesting to see how that kind of comes together. But working with adult male sex offenders, I legit, hand to God, I had a guy that was there who worked at a zoo and fucked an elephant.
All right.
Got charged for, and I had so many questions.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. I couldn't ask the questions. And listen, I'm supposed to be saying things like, how do you feel about that? And in my head, I'm like, was it in their ass? How tall was the ladder? What age was the elephant? Is this a minor elephant?
My mind went to trunk. For some reason, my mind went straight to trunk.
That's a
and
you
I know
problem.
That's not
that is a you problem.
That's maybe more on me. I do. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I have so many questions.
As did I.
We are 17 minutes in, and I couldn't be more excited.
I'm so pumped. We're gonna need more coffee.
We're also juiced the fuck up. Shout out to Black Rifle Coffee. Maybe they'll sponsor the show one day.
Yeah.
Boy, is it good.
I just need them to send me some bags.
Oh, this is Beyond Black from Black Rifle Coffee, and it is beyond. It's dark.
It's like I like my men.
It's good. It is bitter. I do want to ask, okay, not about the elephant, because I could just spend all day on the elephant.
Okay,
Working in that environment, were you, because you talked about, like, I think maybe before we clicked record, you talked about the trepidation of, like, coming over here to my apartment. Like, naturally, there should be some trepidation. Were you scared at all to go into this environment, or was it like a very clinical setting where you felt safe and secure, like working with these guys? Okay.
Not at all. No, this maybe is, it's a me problem too. I didn't have any questions about coming over here until one of my girlfriends was like, you're going to his apartment. Like, is he, are we okay? Does he have like the sleigh bands, And I was like, nah, he doesn't have glasses. He's probably fine.
You got to scope it out.
No, I was stoked. I'd worked with people in the adjudicated youth system and stuff before.
Okay, sure.
And so, no, I was really excited, and my partner was like, should you carry? And I was like, well, they're felons, so no.
Yeah.
But it was very quick that, I worked 1 day a week, a 16-hour day, and we just cycled through groups. It was all groups. Wow. And then I would sometimes have individuals because of, like, certain specific needs. Mm-hmm. And out of the whole time I was there, I only ever had 2 females. And that was like really fucked.
Is that about average for the ratio?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just the number that gets actually charged and actually goes and does a sentence, I mean, you have to, like, part of the recidivism issue is they'd go through treatment, but it's like after the fact, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I wasn't scared. I think there are definitely things I will never be able to unhear or unsee.
Oh, sure.
And there were definitely nights where I went home and got in bed with my daughter and just like sniffed her hair like a fucking weirdo. Like, you're safe. It's okay, my precious, you know? But like, I mean, overall, no, I loved it. It was never a dull moment. Like, and honestly, these are just broken people like all of us.
Sure.
And I made a conscious decision early on to never ever look at anyone's case file until I met them, because I wanted to have a chance to see them as a human before their charge.
Yeah.
And that's probably the best decision I ever made, because if I would have read some of that first, I don't know that I could have just taken that person as a person. Yeah. And I think that's how we just were talking about, you know, people that don't have knowledge and they don't understand, and so they're afraid of things. But you know, and we're not talking
ignorance
about the politics
might be
of
the scariest thing.
100%. Yeah. And but no, these are just people with like really fucking hard stories that just want to be seen as human. And
and a lot of times they're probably a product of the same
1,000%
mistakes and the same. Yeah.
And I say to my clients now, just as I said to them over and over, is like, I'm never going to like congratulate you for a shitty ass choice, but I can almost always hear your story and see how you got there. And it doesn't justify your behavior or your actions, but it does make it make sense. And you could say that about anyone for a variety of reasons that aren't sexually related, you know?
Yeah, you and I have talked several times about other comics like within the industry too, and one in particular that, you know, is a very personal issue for me, where it's like I do have these feelings about it, and obviously what happened is unfortunate, but when you go backwards with a human and you see why they are the way they are, and I think, and maybe it's a product of being raised by a psychologist or something, I do have this weird innate ability to do that. Like actually during that whole same situation, I went and just kind of showed these messages to a confidant friend of mine and was like, what do you think about this situation? And she's a friend, so we've been in fights in the past, she and I, as friends. And she read it and started laughing halfway through, and I was like, what? And she was like, you just have a way of like taking someone up to a 10. And I was like, but what am I doing? I'm not like inciting anger. And she goes, no, you just read people too well. She's like,
people don't like that
they
shit.
don't like it. When you know them and you say something that hits them real close, it fucking fires them up. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, but I'm trying to do the opposite by seeing through them, is give them benefit of a doubt or what. And she's like, no, you're not doing that at all.
Well, and I'd say that's another parallel with comedy. Like, I always tell people, I always am like, I'm very direct, and especially when I'm dealing with men, which I open a lot of shows where I'm like, oh, as usual, there's like 97% dick owners in the room. Like, saddle up, gentlemen, this will be fun, you know? Yeah. But I've always been in male-dominated fields, and I love that. I love that challenge. I love that camaraderie that you can build when you're a strong-ass woman who's not going to take shit and can see through kind of bullshit. But, like, they'll say, like, yeah, I love it. I love when you're direct. And then I am. And then they piss their pants and cry and need a tampon change. They do not love it. But you just can't say sorry for that. And I think it's similar with comedy. Like, be who you really are. That's what people fall in love with, is when you're authentic. Like, they can tell when you're up there trying to sell someone else's jokes, or like you're writing your jokes off of memes you saw on Instagram. It's like, dude, fucking grow up. Like,
I think the biggest one for me, and actually, I mean, we're all guilty of everything I could possibly cast a stone for. I'm also guilty of, you know, so it's like far be it from me.
I appreciate that religious circle back there.
Amen. And I think the biggest thing with me like I just did a show on New Year's Eve, and it was a very fun show. It was in Kingsport, and Jared put it together, Jared Hazen, who's coming on soon, and did it, and Brandy Augustus was there, who I love. Love her. Yeah. I've always loved Brandy. She and I have had like an interesting relationship personally, but as far as like comedians go, I think she's one of the best. No, just starting out, I don't think that we were on the right wavelength, to be honest. It was one of those weird things where it's like we kind of had to start over, maybe. But we did, and we're fine. I've always loved Brandy, and she, regardless of how you feel about her as a person, a talented comedian.
She's fucking hilarious.
She does a lot of great shows, and so when I got there, she was like, I'm excited to see you go up tonight. And I was like, why? Like, it's the same 10 you've been seeing for the last 6 months or whatever. And she was like, no, I feel like every time I see you, you get more comfortable up there. That's the one. And this, I'm not saying that this is not braggadocious, but that just doesn't get said to me regularly. And so I was like, well, great. Like, first of all, thank you. I don't know if that's true. I think what is happening with me is I've stopped giving a fuck about pleasing everybody. Yeah. And it's exactly what you're saying, where it's like, I was always being me up there, but I was trying to be me through this filter of like the me that they're all gonna like. Right. And now I just go, well, maybe you just won't. Yeah. I don't care. And that goes honestly, for me, I'm pretty good at appealing to a crowd of strangers. The comics in the back. is what I was trying to impress.
Yeah, that's rough.
Because that's the approval you want.
Yep.
I know it sounds crazy to somebody who's not a comedian, but I can do a show for 150 people. If the 2 comedians in the back, if I don't hear them laughing, I bomb.
Listen, I don't know if you remember this. One of the first times you were at an open mic and I was there.
Oh, God.
So, okay, you guys, I want you to just really come in close, pull your blankets up for this story time.
Oh, boy. I'm scared.
Don't be. So my partner and I went to a Don't Tell show. This is, 3 years ago, maybe. I don't know. And you were there. And you were one of the people that went up like first or second.
Don't Tell?
Yeah.
It's my show then.
No.
Or Knoxville.
No, it was here.
That's my show then.
You've had it for that long?
I founded
Look
it.
at you,
That's me.
In your diapers doing this.
I don't think that would have been 3 years. Anyways, go ahead.
It was in Johnson City.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Do you know where it was?
It was at the plant place.
That's me.
Okay. So we go in there, and I'm stoked. I'm like, hell yes.
Yeah.
I love comedy. I'm bringing my own booze in here. This is about to be killer, you know?
Yeah. That's the
and I
best
sit
part.
in the front because I don't give a fuck, right?
Okay.
And I'm not doing comedy at this point.
Okay.
And my partner is the opposite of me. He's like, he looks like he's really scary. He's like got a mohawk and tattoos, but he literally would like hug you and give you the shirt off his back.
Sure.
And I would be like, fuck you. And so you made fun of him. Do you remember this? No. So, okay, this is in these places. They're really small venues usually. And so, no, I love this story. All the comics are in the back, but you have to walk through the comics to go to this tiny bathroom.
Yeah.
Well, he has the bladder of a pregnant woman, okay?
Okay.
So he goes back there to pee, and you go out on stage, he comes out, and you're like, oh, this guy, you were taking a shit back there, you know? And everybody dies laughing, and you kind of pick on him for a minute, and I'm laughing, and we're all laughing. And so...
Sorry, man.
No. And he went to pee again later, and you were like, sorry, man. And he was like, oh, no, it's good. And then we saw you at a show at Blue Ridge, and he was like, oh, that guy that made fun of me for not taking a shit, you know? And so you like stuck out to me because of that.
Whoops.
But you and Travis and somebody else were sitting at the bar, and I was doing a set at open mic, and it was one of the first ones I'd ever done. Mm-hmm. And I looked back there, and you guys were laughing. And that... I didn't give a shit. That could have been a room of 300 people, and it wouldn't have mattered because I knew the two of you and I respected your comedy. Yeah. And the fact that you laughed at me, I was like, oh shit, like I actually am not terrible, you know? Like, and that's so crazy, but it matters. It matters so much when you respect other comedians that you know aren't, you know, stealing people's shit or like just taking the low-hanging fruit. They're really out here busting their ass and they're good writers. For me, that's important. Like, I care about that. Yeah,
and finding the voices that you respect that early is also important. Because I think a lot of people have... or they encounter like bad leadership or bad direction or bad advice. And you and I have talked off camera a lot about this. So maybe we'll be a little careful on camera. But like... You in particular are running into situations where...
Oh, shit.
Like situations of leverage or bad advice or whatever it is. That is
we can combine sex therapy and cross over to this too. We can get real serious.
There's the parallels. Yeah, I think it's so unfortunate because it's like it's tough because it's this thing that I love, but there's also truths about it that I know exist, and I don't necessarily encounter those situations myself just because of who I am. But I think that
and because your tits are not as big,
they're not. Well, they used to be bigger. They're shrinking now. Yeah, thanks. I'm zimped up. I'm on the Ozempic.
Hell yeah.
I'm not, but I should be. But I don't know. It's like one of those things where, you know, there's probably things about basketball that if you ask a pro player, they go, yeah, I wish that wasn't part of basketball. Yeah. Like, that's just part of it maybe, and I don't know that it needs to be, or I wish it wasn't, but how do you... It's like an institution as old as time, you know? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it's... Gosh, there's so much... I love that you asked that question about crossovers, because there are so many, but it's like... In my life, as a 43-year-old woman... who came from nothing and has busted my ass to get to where I am. Like, and I've lived a dozen lives. Like, you know, I'm in the middle generation that's not generation anything. I'm like the 1 year that's nothing.
Yeah,
you know?
The outlier.
Yeah, I'm just there hanging out and so, you know, I grew up before the internet, but also like, you know, you were bullied by your parents, you know, and so there's a lot of material that comes from that.
Some of us still are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. R.I.P. Dad. But I think too, it's like being a female in such a male-dominated field gives me so much motivation. But I've never, because I've lost over 200 pounds, this body doesn't feel like it's mine still. Yeah. And so
like dysmorphia at the highest.
Oh, at the fucking highest. Sure. And being a therapist, like I talk to people about that, not just women, a lot of women, but like if you've not been through it, you really can't wrap your brain around it. And it's like, so when I get hit on. I don't know it's happening usually. I have the amount of fights I've almost gotten in, like straight up
in
fist
your mind,
fights.
you're like,
I'm
no
like,
one would ever
what
hit
are you?
on me.
Yeah, I'm like, what do you mean? You know? But then when comedy, it's 1,000 times worse. Like I found very quickly, and it's like, damn, like
it's real bad.
Why are we so disgusting? Like, and it makes you question whether you're actually. It makes me question. Maybe other women just know they're funny and they have confidence. I don't know what that's like, but for me, it makes me question, like, am I actually funny, or are they just saying these things because of how I look? Because it happens to me so often now, and it's just gross.
Oh, it's very gross. And I think it's an unfortunate truth about this thing that I love.
Yeah.
But there is some level to what you said too, of like, it makes you, the unfortunate thing obviously is the action or the words that take place. The repercussion though of you then questioning within yourself, am I good at this thing or is it just this? That to me is maybe the most tragic of it all, because then it's very hard to establish confidence, which is kind of the key to growing in the art. So when they're robbing you of that, it's like that's a whole other hurdle to overcome aside from the actual trauma that took place. You know, to actually move on. And I think a lot comes to mind too with the parallel thing, but like another one that I kind of thought of as you're saying that with the dysmorphia thing is I do it in comedy too, where like because I am who I am and because of mostly don't tell in this scene relative to the size of this scene, I guess I have some level of influence which I don't. I don't even like saying it. Doesn't make sense to me. You know, it's the same thing with the body. Like
but people.
I remember when I started.
But people come up to you and they're like, "Oh, this is the don't tell guy."
Yes.
Like,
and
what do I do to get on your show?
Yes,
and
they're nervous to
so
talk to me,
crazy.
and I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, why are you being nervous to me?
Right.
Who cares?
Are you like, just be funny? Like, do better. Like, be funny. Like, you suck actually.
I
like,
wish I could.
God, I would do that. This is why people don't give me jobs like that, because I would be like,
I know.
So many club owners and people like you around here are just too damn nice. And I'm like, dude.
I might put you in charge of booking.
I would love that, actually. Thank you for seeing my strengths.
I'm very avoidant. That's my approach. It's like I'm super avoidant to being negative, but then when pushed, I don't mind. You know what I mean? Like there's been a few, very few, but there's been a few where it's like somebody is so incessant that I just go, all right, you want the answer? Here's the answer. Like I just have to tell it to you.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, and that's gonna hurt your feelings, and then I'm the bad guy, but I think at this point I just have to accept that. That's all very hard for me. What's easier for me is to be like, oh yeah, just apply through the website, and then peace, bing.
You're so
just
sweet.
See you later. And then, you know, if they do, great. If they don't, I don't know. Like I don't know. That's a difficult road for me. But the lack of or like questioning yourself or not feeling like you are what you are.
Yeah.
Is a parallel too, because when people come up to me and they're nervous or they're nice, or even crowd members, sometimes they'll see me at Blue Ridge, like you said you did, and be like, "Oh, I've seen you at Don't Tell," blah blah blah. I am real bad at like allowing that or embracing it. I'm working on it, but I think I've also been in their shoes when I see a comic or whoever that I respect and I want to talk to them, and they're dismissive. Being on the other side of it now, I kind of know they're not really being a dickhead. They just don't know how to internalize what you're saying. And that's me.
So many comics. I told you this. I lived in Ohio. I'm from Ohio, but we lived tiny for 3.5 years. So I lived near Yellow Springs, Ohio, where Dave Chappelle lives.
Oh, yeah.
And I ran into him at a Whole Foods store, just like we were literally in the same wine section shopping.
That's so funny.
And I was like, hey, dude. And I was 365 pounds, this like big old white lady with a big ass, you know. And he was just like, hey, like, you know. And so we're just talking about whatever. And and he's like super chill, cool guy. But I said, hey, like afterwards, we were in the same checkout line. I said, man, I don't want to be that guy, but like, can I take a picture with you? Because like my husband's a huge fan of yours and he's honestly just not going to believe that I met you.
Right.
And he was like, I really appreciate that. But I just like, you know, I'm in the grocery store and I was like, yeah, man, cool. Like respect. Yeah. And I see that and it's like, we don't think about that. Like these are just people living their lives. And a lot of comics are fucking awkward as hell. And so it's like when somebody comes up and says that to you, they're like, and I'm a baby comic, I'm nobody, but I have had people travel to see me like a couple hours at a show. And I'm like, excuse me, what? Like, how do you even know my name? This is weird as hell. You know, I'm
asking
nobody.
For a photo is weird. I've had a few of those too.
Can I buy your merch? I'm like, what the
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
Seriously? Like, what do I do? Do I make patches? What do we start with hats? A trucker hat situation?
I go stickers first, usually is my recommendation.
I have a sticker, but then it's like,
Yeah.
that feels weird. Like, just take it. Just take the
That's a
sticker. Do you want me to pay
free
you to take the sticker and put it on your... What do you want? Please.
I think, well, so in the same sense of like some of the unfortunate things we're talking about with the leverage and the bad advice and all these things, or just like male comics taking bad angles towards you as a female, in that sense, and in this confidence thing we're talking about, or the kind of the privacy thing we're talking about too. Yeah. I think all of that is all a product of the misfit toys analogy, where it's like, just like you said, like there's a reason you are a comic, and that brokenness plays through in these other areas. Like, it helps you, but there's also areas where you go, oh yeah, we're also like, if you have 300 comics in a room, you have 300 psychopaths trying to learn how to interact and
1,000%
interface with each other, and it's gonna lead to some problems. Yeah.
And I think like I think it's really precious how you keep saying like interactions and words that are really dainty and sweet about when men are just like, if you fuck me, I will like boost your internet presence, and I'm like,
trying to tiptoe around it.
No,
for you.
That's exactly what it is.
I know what it is.
100% is that, and they don't tiptoe around shit.
No.
I've been in a lot of really scary situations.
No,
like that.
I'm not the example being used.
No.
This is not me.
No, let's recall back to when I said, oh, he's probably fine for me to go upstairs in his apartment. Like, he's got a soundproof room. He wants to put me in front of a microphone. Totally. He's got a Camel mug. Hell yeah. Like, sign me up.
The coffee did lure you in.
It did lure me in. Yeah. If you had iced coffee or espresso, holy shit. Like,
I got espresso.
Yeah. But those kinds of things have happened, like, for sure. And what I'm finding more and more is people who are getting a name for themselves.
Yeah.
They're not like a big to-do, certainly bigger than me, but like people know them, especially if it was like, you got famous on a certain platform like TikTok or with Instagram Reels or something like that. And they're like, I can boost this and this and this if you do X, Y, or Z.
Sure.
Or
that's the leverage. That's where it comes.
Yeah.
Into play.
And I think I told you, maybe I didn't, that I did a roast. Did I tell you about that?
Yeah.
Because you and I worked on that, right?
Yeah.
But like, when you go on a roast, this is like any random person who's not a comic has, for sure, you've seen a Comedy Central roast of a celebrity, and they're hilarious. But they're just, there's no rules. Like, you say the most heinous shit that everybody's thinking of. That's why it's so funny, right? Yeah. And then people cry themselves to sleep at night. It's what we do.
That's what we do.
But like, you have to have thick skin. You have to be prepared. And I love that. I ask for that. Like, I love that shit. Especially I was the only female, and like I was the diversity program of the show.
Sure.
The diversity portion of the show.
Sure.
But but then the stuff that they say, it's like, man, when everything's about having sex, like when literally everything is about fucking.
Yeah.
Or what I look like, I'm like, damn, like, I must be awesome if that's the only fucking thing that you can say bad about me. But like, dig it, like, try harder.
That.
Yeah.
I literally said that's probably how that's going to go.
You did.
And I think try harder is a great approach to, a great reaction to that. Because it's like, it's just easy picking. Like, it's if you're up against a 600-pound man and you do all fat jokes, well, duh. Anybody in the crowd probably wrote the same joke in their head the second he walked out. It doesn't impress me.
Yeah.
Where it gets tricky though is like the sexualization off stage. Like, a roast is one thing, but like, even, because I'm a producer and I'm a booker, and then this show too is another exactly like we've talked about, where it's like I am so nervous in my head about reaching out to, we were just talking about a future guest I'm going to have on the show who is a pretty like recognizable figure locally and is a older female, and I reached out and there's just no way for me to like convince you it's safe, like, because the harder I try, the creepier it seems.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's obviously a product of all the other side of it, all the ones who actually do shit like that. But like, even when booking Don't Tell, I'm just sliding into random female comics DMs, and it feels disingenuous. Like, you question it, and I get it. I totally understand. But it's like, sometimes I struggle with how do I go about, because I want to include females comics on my show. That's very important to me. What I don't want to do is make them feel like they're earning the spot. You know what I mean? Like, all that leverage shit. I want a way to avoid that.
Hold on, say more about that. Earning the spot. What do you mean?
Like, I think a lot of male producers offer female comics spots with a little wink. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't do that, but I'm very self-conscious about them thinking that because that's every other male booker they've ever encountered.
Yeah, totally.
So there's just not a way for me to get around it.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel for you. That would be tough.
It is tough.
And sincerely, I've never gotten that vibe from you. If I had, I probably would have told you to your face, like, because I don't give a shit. But honestly, I think that's another thing, though, that calls back, and maybe not other females aren't like this, I don't know, but it calls back for me. Do they actually think I'm funny, or is it just that I know they have to have a female on the show?
Yeah.
And so I'm the token female.
Sometimes it's both.
And that's ass. Yeah. Like, I never want to get a gig because of my tits. I want to get a gig because I'm funny, because I'm a good writer, because I'm smart.
Sometimes it is both.
I know, and that sucks. I appreciate your honesty.
Sometimes
but
it is both. Because, and it's not, I would almost extend that to like minority comics, to white guy comics, even like bro comedy, you know, all the Shane Gillis clones that we know. Like, I can only have 2 of you on the show. Yeah. Because if I have 4 of you on the show, it's going to be the Shane Gillis show. Yeah. I can't fucking keep
and when you all fucking do the mannerisms, like, get a grip. I can't do that. That makes me crazy.
Even like, back in the day, one thing I ran into a lot is like.
Back in the day, and you're 26.
Back a year and a half ago.
Back when I was 12.
Back a year and a half ago, when I first started booking these Don't Tells and stuff, it's like, naturally, I want all my friends on the show, not only because they're my friends, but I can trust them and I know they're good. Yes. But it's like, if me, Justin Mays, and Travis are all on a lineup, we're kind of 3 straight Southern white dudes. We're not talking about the same thing, but we're kind of the same energy.
Yeah.
That's another thing where it's like, I got to spread you guys out. It's the same with female comics. It's the same with black comics. And I grew up largely on black comedy. Most of my intro to stand-up is black comics. So I love that style, but having a lineup of all that, to me, is equally as boring as having a lineup of all Shane Gillis clones. Like, I just have to mix it up.
How do you when you're doing that, like, you're also having to think of your audience, because you're the producer, you've got to sell tickets. And, like you and I were talking before we started today, like, I grew up on Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, like all the, the greats, and they didn't give a shit. There were hard R's all over the place. Then what do you do? Like, how do audiences handle? But how do they handle it here? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do people in the audience, are they like, oh God, we can't laugh at this?
So it goes back to the geographical conversation. A lot of the same like religious trauma or guilt or shame or things infect sense of humor the same way they do sexuality. So starting out especially, it was a little tough to introduce is a strong word. Blue Ridge has been here. Wallace has been here. There's actually been 3 distinct like comedy scenes here that have come and died over the last 10 years. And Hunter Roberts is the sole surviving member of all 3. I just saw him. I spent like 4 hours with him last night at a bar. Randomly saw him there. He works there, and I was with a friend, and we sat there all night.
So
anyways,
sweet.
he had to kick us out. Yeah. Love Hunter. Love you, Hunter. The cool part about starting and getting to introduce them is I did get to push that limit at my own pace. So like my first headliner ever was Keith Marcel.
Yeah.
He's a perfect one because he comes in with this energy that everyone loves. Everyone loves Keith. And then he says insane shit that if I said it, they'd be mortified. Yeah. But he has the charm and he has the skill to pull it off and the likability. So it's like we started there, and then, like Justin Mays is on a lot of my early lineups. That's a very darker angle on comedy. I've got a guy from Nashville that I love who's a great dude, and he's coming back for the second time soon, Mike Postolakis. Great dude, very dark sense of humor. Very, very dark. Yeah. And like in the room, just geographically, it might not hit as hard as it does at Zany's in Nashville. Yeah. But I like that. Yeah. And I understand he probably would be mortified to hear that I'm like, I like when you squirm. But I like that my audience trusts me to come back and see things they are not expecting. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because we have, like, the last show we did, we had about 20 returners. Yeah. For the end of the year. That's so it's awesome. Like, it's the end of the year and they knew it was our last show. They wanted to come out and support. And that's awesome. It's bad for me because I bomb my dick off because they're tired of me every 2 weeks. But the fact that they trust me and my sensibilities and my booking to guide them and maybe expose them to new things, I don't take that for granted. Yeah, for sure. I really don't. Yeah. Yeah. Because like you said, that like the introducing a crowd of all older white people from Johnson City, Tennessee to a Keith Marcel is a little outside their comfort zone, but they have learned now through the 40 shows we've produced or whatever that if you buy this ticket and you find the venue and you park and you go in and you sit down, it will be worth that $25.
For sure, yeah.
That's all I care about. Yeah. That's literally it. So in terms of like the booking, the minorities, the female, all that can just be summed up with, is it worth $25?
Yeah, I can't believe you guys still only charge $25. It is a solid show. We've seen a few of them, and I've laughed my ass off at everyone.
There's been a few. I was just talking to somebody on the phone the other night where I was like, I think just like with comedy, if there's one person in the crowd not laughing, that's all you focus on. So for me, there's 3 shows that I go, if I could take it all back and start over, I would just not do those 3 shows. And most of the time is out of my control, is the venue or the comics or the headliner or whatever. We've done almost 40. 3 out of 4, I think I can live with that.
That's solid, yeah.
You know, and there's a few that are most of them are probably somewhere in the middle, and we've had a few that are outstanding. But 3 out of 40, I can live with that. But it is very much like that's all I think about is the bad ones. You know? Yeah. We have there's a comedian that I love who he's semi-famous, but he retold this joke that's like a comics joke, green room joke. And it's the gist of it basically is like a comic's into town for shows. He goes up, he does 2 shows, great shows. He goes back to the hotel. Later that night, there's a knock on the door. He opens it. There's an attractive woman who's like the woman of his dreams. And she's like, I was at your show tonight. I think you're incredible. I'd love to come in and let you have your way with me. And he goes, are you at the first show or the second show? That's our brain.
Yeah,
that's
100%.
How like fucked up we are. Like none of that matters. What you just said doesn't matter. Where were you sitting? Like, were you over there next to that guy that didn't laugh? Like that's it. And I'm the same way with producing. I'm the same way. Misfit toy.
And people say that like I get like teased kind of in certain circles because I am diagnosed OCD. This is not just like I wash my hands a lot, you know. But but I have a process and I have to do it the same way every time. So I like a fucking psycho sit in my car and run my set like 2 or 3 times before I go back in, even though I've had it memorized the whole time. But it's like if I don't do that, you know, my whole family will die or something. But I relate. But I go in there, and when I do that, you never know who's going to be in the audience. You never know if somebody's going to heckle you or if somebody's going to, you know, I love crowd work. It's some of my favorite stuff. Yeah. And honestly, like, be a fucker. I'm going to love it even more.
That's where we're different.
But when I leave, I always record my set, and I usually, I mean, I'm 45 minutes from Bristol, so I will literally play that video over and over and pick myself apart until I want to drive it off an embankment. Good. Every time on my way home, because it's like, it doesn't matter how well I thought that joke was thought out. Yeah. If I could only hear that same lady's laugh every time, then she only thought I was funny. And it's hard because, you know, you and I have talked about some of the clubs around here, especially like the sound's ass or you can't see the audience or whatever. And so you have no idea. You might have thought you had fun and you absolutely slayed. And then you listen to it back and you're like, God, I was the worst. What am I doing? Like, I am wasting my life right now. Yeah. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of.
I have that in reverse sometimes too, where I go, man, I fucking crushed. And then like just on New Year's, and this is not a shot at the place. I think the venue was very kind to us. It was a good show. But just structurally, this room is not great for live comedy. It just, you know, sound gets lost in the back. There's a bar in the back.
You did comedy in a cave. What do you mean?
This was worse. Okay, I'm just saying this is worse. Okay. Also in the cave, I produced it, so I had everyone up near the. Nobody was getting drowned out. In this situation, there's people in the back. They're talking. They're not watching the show. It's a bar show.
I hate that shit.
It happens. Part of that though is for the front group. I go, I'm fucking crushing right now. I feel pretty, not that level. I've probably never said that until right now. But I was like, I feel decent about this set. They're at least engaged. Yeah. I at least have their attention. Because like on long pauses, there's no chatter. They're listening to what I'm saying. That's all I can really ask for as a comedian. And then the rest is on me. So I'm like, this is going pretty good. And then I go in the back, and the next comic goes up, and I'm sure to that front group, he was destroying. But from the back, I was like, God, like this is not good. And my girlfriend was there, and she sat in the back through my whole set. So I go, did it sound like this back here when I was up there? And she goes, oh yeah. And I was like, okay, so the different, like, it's almost 2 rooms. Yeah. There's like a whole different vibe. And so a lot of it is not even, you know, you listen back to the recording and you're like, I did good or I did bad. A lot of it's like subjective to where your phone's sitting when you do it, you know? And I think as long as you can feel it and take away something, it's good. In that particular case, I felt decent about the set. JoJo went up, who's fantastic. Love him. Great set. Brandy went up. Fantastic. Great set. That was Jared's show.
Solid lineup.
Oh, it was great. We all did 15. It was quick, simple, great. It. And then Jared's like, he's like, I had the audience put some topics in a hat. We're going to draw topics and riff. You want to go on stage and do that? And I was like, fuck no. And he was like, we're all doing it. And I was like, okay, fine. So I went and did it. And the 4 of us stood on stage with 2 microphones and just riffed on topics. And thank God for JoJo and Brady. They're way better at it than I am. But I was like, dude, I was feeling good about this show. You made me go up here and scramble for 10 minutes. That being said, it was very fun. And I think some of us got a couple premises out of it, maybe. You know, like that was a cool format. But it's tough when you're up there and you don't really know how it's playing.
Yeah.
And then the drive home,
it's
you get
brutal.
real.
It's so brutal.
You get real with yourself.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, because we talked a little before the roast, and then before you went to the catch for the first time. Tell me about the catch, because obviously there's certain things maybe not to say on camera just for business wise, but I do think that's a great room.
Yeah.
And I had great experiences there.
Yeah. So, which I loved hearing about you getting to do that hosting. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was great. It's nice and sore.
Yeah. So the catch has just been a dream room for me.
Yeah.
Like, and I think as, you know,
but you've never been in there.
No, never. No.
Yeah,
and
that's huge.
And I was fully aware that like, I was driving an 8-hour round trip for a 4-minute set, and I was like, "Wow, it humbles you really fucking quick."
Welcome to comedy.
Yeah,
Psychosis.
But it was like, I wanted that room so bad,
yeah.
And even when you do it on a mic night, you have to be picked to get on that lineup,
right.
Or show up and hope to God that there's a spot that somebody doesn't show up for, right? And so I was stoked to do it. I get up there. The room was amazing. Like, it has, that balcony, and the lighting is good, and you can hear everyone. But the thing that struck me the most with that room was it was primarily comics, like most mics are, but they were all listening. They were all engaged. They were all laughing.
Isn't that interesting?
It's crazy because most mics, everybody's like, fuck you, I'm about to do the same thing as you. I've heard this set 20 times, and or they're in the back and they're loud as hell, and just that's annoying. But no, it was a great room, and those were the fastest 4 minutes of my life. I mean, it was like, I don't remember it. It was just crazy, but it was so fun. Very well organized. Like, that show ran like a dream.
It's a real club.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people too ran through there really quickly, and everybody, even people that bombed, like, it didn't seem like it because it was so fast. Fast. But I loved that. That's a stage I would like. That's a goal stage to actually get a gig on. You know what I mean? For me,
it's a great club. I had a good experience there, so I'm sure there's people who haven't. But as far as I'm concerned, I think Danielle's always been really great to me, and the club's good. The interesting thing about it, and I'm curious your take, like, structurally, obviously you said there's the balcony. It's built for, it's a great room. Location's great. The stage is so like narrow to the wall. There's not a lot of space between the wall behind you and where your tiptoes are, but it's wide.
Yeah.
And I found, like, when hosting there, that forced me to move diagonally more, because I'm pretty good about moving forward and back during a set, but that, like, side to side movement is just not natural for me. But when you're on a stage where that's kind of your only option for movement is to go left or right, it kind of forced me to move more. I enjoyed that.
I move a lot naturally. I think I just take up a lot of real estate. I don't know. But I did notice that in a lot of physical comics, I would struggle there. I think just the physical comedy is just more limited, depending on what stage you're on anyway. But yeah, I loved that room. It's like, I would imagine, like, when you're inviting somebody up to your secret podcast, upper room here.
The upper room.
Where it's like, you go through this, like, door that's kind of a door, but it doesn't say the catch, and it's like, oh no, you go here, and I'm like, are you sure we go here? And you walk down a hallway, and then they take the comics out back, and you also have to go out back to go to a bathroom, so you're like out. It's comedy, man. That's what comedy. It is. You're in an alley.
I love
for
it.
the most of the time.
I do love it.
Yeah, you're behind a curtain with a bunch of comics on each other's laps, basically. Yeah.
Also, I mean, the fact that, like, you're less than a year in and you've already touched that stage and talked into that mic, that's already like a progression. I mean, obviously it was an open mic, so it's not like you're being booked a headline there or anything, but the fact that you're eager enough to do the 8 hours round trip for the 4 minutes is something. And I mean, you and I have talked a lot before this about distinguishing things in you that I and other comedians have noticed starting out, because truth is there's a lot of comics around here, but, like, to take an interest in you, or to, I hesitate to even say, like, provide guidance, because I don't really think I know what the fuck I'm talking about. But I do worry about comics with potential that start in a scene like ours and receive such bad examples, such bad leadership, and they get, this is not singling anybody out in particular, but I think we have maybe not even bad leadership or bad examples so much as lack thereof, because nobody's really doing a lot, and there's different levels. Like, I know there's a comedian locally who I just love, and she's wonderful, and she has said to me a number of times, I like to get out of the house once a week. I like to have a glass of wine with my friends and write jokes and go up and do good and do the same jokes, and then I go home and I feel good. Like, and that's what she wants out of comedy, and that's great. There are others who don't feel that way, who think that they are owed something more but aren't being proactive to do it.
Right.
So when you do that, that is like incentivizing something in those around you as well, I'm sure yourself, but those around you to look at that and go, well, she's trying. Look at that. You know, that's something. Because we all had to do that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still doing it. I do it all the time. I've driven to Lexington, I don't know how many times for a Don't Tell spot, and had to, you know, you get a hotel, and by the time you're done, you're $200 in the hole or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
That's just the life. Yeah. That's the life. That's what you're signing up for. So I think there's a lot of examples I could think of where someone is maybe looking for a pass past all of that, or just sitting waiting for that to fall in their lap or whatever it is, and you're not doing that. Like, you know, obviously writing and comedy and presence aside, the hustle is something that a lot of comics just don't have. Yeah. They can't do it.
I don't think you can teach it. I mean, and that's not saying anything about me, but I that's one of those things. It's like, when you come from being poor, like, I didn't have a fucking choice. Like, I had to, there, you know, nobody was buying me shit. I had to work. And so it's just, I've always had to do that. It wasn't something that I did because it was fun. I did it because it was a have to. And I think that makes you harder. That makes you better because you're working hard, you're busting your ass. And it's not something that, like, you know, I signed up for a comedy class because I was the fat kid who was funny, right? And I was funny because I didn't want to fucking be made fun of, you know? Like, that was just a coping mechanism, right?
Sure.
And so
that's most of us, I think.
Yeah, and so then I was like, I'm just going to do this and see if I'm actually funny, or if it's just like situational with my friends, you know, whatever. Yeah. And then it started being something where people were asking me to come do gigs, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, okay, cool. Yeah. And then it was like, look, they'll ask me to come do this for free or for $20 or something, but like, if I really bust my ass, maybe I can, you know. And so then I started like kind of sticking my foot into other cities and you know, traveling a little bit, and it's like, oh, and you're also, depending on what your situation is, like, just as a female, I get a lot of shit, as you know, we talked about before, like, there's a lot of grossness that happens and stuff that's said to me that I'm like, wow, like, congratulations. Now, let me ask honestly.
You, pause there for a second, because I am, and we've talked about this off mic, being as vague as possible, just so as not to get yourself in any trouble. Shit. Did that start from the first time? You know what I mean? Like, was there a period where you're kind of blissful unawareness where you go, oh, comedy's great, everybody gets along, nobody's weird to me? Or was it like pretty much from the second I started this, somebody was offering leverage or being weird to me?
No, they weren't offering leverage or being weird. I didn't know. I'd never go into a situation I'm like, oh, everybody gets along and let's hold hands, because fuck that. That's bullshit. Yeah. I think that you know, seeing through people's dumb fuckery is probably my spiritual gift. So, you know, that's, you know.
That helps.
Yeah. But no, it was after, and this is unfortunate too, I think, you know, when a couple of people who are known in our area start to notice you, and then other people find out about that, so you get on people's radar, then they get pissy, and that's when stuff starts to come out. And that's gross to me, you know. And the same can be said, like, in probably any line of work, but in therapy, it's like people don't want to, like, you know, share their space or whatever. And it's like, dude, everybody's fucked up. There's plenty of people that need help. Like, why are we pissing a circle around your office? Like, what's the point, you know?
It's kind of that famine mentality thing, right? Of like, there's not enough to go around. I mean, I think I encountered that a lot starting out here. And the scene was not what it is now. You know, when I started here, it was just Blue Ridge. There was no independent stuff running out of Kingsport. The Wallace Theater was just doing improv pretty much at the time. I didn't have Don't Tell here. It was pretty bare bones. Blue Ridge was doing pretty good on their own. You know, that's not a slight to them or anything, but it was just a different landscape. And it was very much like, even starting Don't Tell, I think there was honestly more pushback than joy. And to some degree, I would argue maybe still is, where it's like, oh, there's a new band in town. I guess we won't be the only one playing a show. And it's like, well, what the fuck? But there's more shows. Isn't that the whole point? Is to have, you know, rising tide lifts all ships or whatever. And maybe that's just wishful thinking on my part, but that's how I was coming into the situation. I guess that's probably also easier from my end when I'm the one bringing the new band to town. You know,
I mean, I don't know, because I'm sure you also catch some shit about that too.
All the time.
But it's just
part of it. Well, I don't catch it. It's out there. I just don't give a shit. I think, and the interesting thing, what is really, really, really funny to me is when we talk about the local comedy scene. I mean, if let's just say you're including Knoxville in that to here, and that's, to me, that's a whole different universe. But even if you are, there's 30 of us, maybe. There's probably 10 of us that are taking it serious, but there's 30 that I would go, yeah, they're a local comic. you don't think that I'm going to hear everything you say about me. Like,
Right.
literally, if you go to Knoxville, I spent the first 2 years of doing comedy. I did more in Knoxville than here up until the last 6 months.
Yeah.
If you go down there and you talk about how much you hate me or I'm this or I'm that, I'm gonna know about it pretty quick. So then don't come to me when we're in Bristol.
Yeah.
Like we're friends.
Yeah.
I'm like, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
That happened to me a lot.
Yeah.
Early on. Well, early on is in like with Don't Tell, you know, because for the first year and a half, I had that blissful unawareness.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is great. We're all a family. Families all get along. We don't all hate each other. You know, I was like,
how did you grow up?
well, I think that's why it shocked me, is because I was like, this is nothing like my family. Everybody, you know, what a big happy circle. Turns out that's not how that works at all.
Not at all.
But it was jarring to me. I don't know. The whole conversation around like the famine thing is so interesting, because I understand in therapy too. Like I have a therapist and I love him.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Been with him a long time.
Good.
My mom's a therapist, you know, so I understand that world, and I even know like some of the gripes that develop, or some of the feuds, or it's just like with anything.
It's insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, maybe, you know, you started out talking about like that I have a normal life, which is also comical, but
subjectively normal.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I think because of that, comedy was like, it has to be a priority to some extent for you to really push it.
Agreed.
And there are going to be ebbs and flows, just like with anything else in your life. You know, if you really enjoy your day job and you're busting ass because you want a promotion or whatever, that's going to be, you know, other things will have to take a back seat. And so for me, because like I have a high needs child and I've got 2 kids, and you know, we bought a house this summer, and so there's all these things, and you know.
And do you still have your business going full time too? Right.
Yeah. I mean, I work this is crisis season, so I work a lot. But then, so I find, and then I have this run-in that we talked briefly about that was really shitty, and I really came out of that like with a bad taste in my mouth. Like I got asked, probably after that happened, I got asked to do about 3 shows, and I was like, look, and I didn't say anything about what happened because it's nobody's business, but I was just like, I can't do it. Like I don't have it right now. I have such like right now it makes me like physically ill to think about it, and so I haven't done a show since that show. So, see, I didn't know that. Now, here, the interesting thing there is there's some parallel to me on this one. And, you know, obviously we've talked about these vague things between your life and comedy. But in the actual, obviously, I've never been in the situation that you're discussing. But the feeling of, like, I love this thing. I love this art form. I love this medium. I love that. When I'm on stage, there's no doubt that I'm a comic. Everything else that it takes to do this can be very discouraging and very overwhelming. And I think most comics relate to that. I think producing gives me a different glimpse at that too, and a really bad taste in my mouth for different comics or different, you know, shows or whole fucking cities at times. That does happen. So how are you currently finding the motivation to even care about the thing? Like, can you, it's almost like separate the art from the artist in a way where you're like, I love the thing, I just don't want to play ball to do it. Well, and I think too, it's like, as somebody who doesn't give any fucks, like I just don't care to hurt somebody's feelings. Like I don't care to be like, listen, if you want to act like that, like I'll bear your shit. I don't care, you know, and you think you're whatever, but I don't have time for that, you know? And so I'm not somebody who's trolling your Instagram. I'm not somebody who's out here because I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. And I honestly don't give a shit, you know? But what I want to be doing is writing jokes. What I want to be doing is bouncing ideas off of other comics I respect. And so, like, because you and I have had time where we've talked off mic about things, and it's like, I believe in what you're doing. I want to cheer you on in what you're doing, regardless of what that means with me or comedy or whatever. That's who I am as a person. Like, I want to get behind somebody that I respect. I see what they're doing, and they're passionate about it, and I want to cheer them on. And so you had asked me to do this a while ago, and I'd committed to it, and then I was like, ugh, like this thing happened, and I was like, God, the last thing I want to do is talk about being funny because fuck this, you know? Yeah. But as soon as I was here, it's like this energy. It's like, you know, like, and I can go with that.
Yeah, well, I think a huge thing that a lot of comics miss out on is the camaraderie, and not to say that like all your best friends have to be comedians. In fact, I think that can be a detriment at a certain point. But I do think that if you're on an island with anything, it's tough to stay self-motivated to keep doing that thing. Yeah. And I think for quite a long stretch in my comedy journey, which is only, coming up on 4 years, it's not a lot of time, but I do think for quite a long stretch that I felt very much on an island.
Yeah.
Part of that is I put me there. Part of that is I've always felt like I'm on an island. That's just who I am. But then I think the result of that feeling for me is some isolation or some trepidation or some walls that results in what you're talking about now, where it's like, just because I'm not overindulgent to every comedian I meet, it's not really me, just like with the Chappelle thing, it's not really me being a dickhead. It's a combination of, I don't believe I have anything to offer you, and I don't know that there's a point in it, and like, you're an example. And then there's this guy, Chris, who I love. We can talk about him for a second. I think
I love him.
I love Chris. I just like that guy. I've only met him a few times. Who knows? This could
listen. I watched a set on the way here because I was like, I guess I should see what I was even talking about in jokes.
Yeah.
And I watched a set, and it was at an open mic, and he had gone up before me, and it was his first time ever going up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I go, hey, Chris, were you in that comedy class? And he's like, yeah, like from the audience. And I go, dude, you are good. Like, there's something here.
Oh yeah.
And I'm nobody. He doesn't know me. But I said that, and everybody, like, two people, I was like, yeah, like, that's why we're here, guys. You remember? Like, that's what we're doing here.
Remember that thing?
And so he and I have done a couple of shows since then, and he still remembers that, which is like the sweetest thing.
I'm sure.
It's kind of like me saying, I remember you and Trav laughing at me, and I was like,
thing.
hell yeah, like,
yeah.
This is what I'll feed off of this for the next chunk of time.
Oh yeah.
Or when I get in a low spot and I can't find anything to write about or whatever, and that's
another huge thing. Is like, every now and then you'll encounter a little guy with a gas pump who will put a little gas in your tank. You get a little further, and I think I remember all the ones that happened to me. Some of them, for circumstances, are no longer a part of my life or my journey or whatever. But it doesn't take away from the fact that in that moment they gave me the push I needed to keep going.
Agreed.
And I think there's probably 1,000 of those down the road that are still yet to happen, which is nice. What I had a hard time adjusting to is that I could be the guy with the gas pump for someone else. And again, it's not that I don't believe in people or I don't want to be supportive. It was like, who am I?
Yeah.
It's a insecurity thing where like with Chris, I'll use him as I don't think he would mind. I saw him for the first time a few months ago, hadn't been to the open mic in a while, and I did what I never do. I sat like second row and I just watched the open mic. I never do that because usually I walk in and I see Pruitt or Travis and I'm off to the races because they're my buddies. But I was like, I'm gonna go sit, and I got there late, so I kind of snuck in. And I see him go up, and I was like, this kid has fucking actual jokes.
Yeah.
Like, obviously he's new, he's nervous, the stage presence needs to grow, all these things. But like, and again, who am I? This is not a judgment thing. I was very impressed by him. Yeah. And so I just went back to Jared and I was like, who the fuck is this guy? And he was like, that's Chris. He's pretty good, huh? And I go, yeah, he's really interesting. Like, really interesting. So I just said, do you mind introducing me to him? Because I never met this guy. And then he did, and we kind of talked. And I had heard that he had done like a guest spot recently and was very good. So I was like, hey, I heard you did really good on that show. And he was like, I don't know. He was like, I'm probably not the guy to ask. And I go, good answer. Yeah. So I was like, had you been like, yeah, I fucking crushed that shit, I would have been like, blech.
Yeah.
But no, he was very kind. And so I've interacted with him a few times now. And he may be you or him probably are the first examples where, for whatever reason, I feel comfortable going, hey, I believe in you, and I would like if you kept coming back.
Yeah,
just, because I do. And that's not to say that I don't believe in all the people I didn't do that for. I just wasn't in a space where I felt the need to do it.
Yeah.
And then, but now, like and honestly, I'll use Jared Hazen as an example. I love Jared. Yeah. Jared and I have been friends for a long time, and we did a lot of stuff early on. The first time I ever did comedy, I came off stage, and Jared was kind of like a rumor around the local scene because he had come and then he went back to Alaska for a while and Oklahoma for a while and then all this stuff. But when the first time I ever went to Blue Ridge, I saw him win a competition. Yeah. And I was like, that guy's the funniest guy in the world. I can't imagine anybody funnier. And then the first time I went up, I came off stage and he pulled me outside and he was like, you wrote jokes. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, obviously there's you got to learn. There's a lot to do, but you're fun. You should come back here. And I did. And if not for that, I might have, but who knows? Yeah. And so like he's my example early on. So what's interesting is I didn't think I could be that for somebody else. Yeah. I don't know why. Just insecurity, I think. Like it's tough for me, dysmorphia in a different form, where it's like I just can't imagine that I'd be that for somebody else. But I'm sure Jared probably feels the same way. And I've told him that story. He knows how much that meant to me now. But he had somebody and the trend continues. So that's kind of the point I reached where it was like, if I'm that for somebody else and they do continue and they do find success, maybe they'll pass that on. That's where I got to.
Yeah. And I think it's like, too, like when we were talking about that famine mentality, the other thing that I like, the flip side of that coin though, is I've been in a situation where somebody who is somebody sees that in me and then they use that as an example in front of a lot of people. And that is not good, because then
how so?
Like I was used as so you talked about my hustle, right?
Yeah.
I know from day one the things I have going for me are my stage presence, because I'm confident. Yeah. Because I don't give a fuck.
Agreed.
And that I'm going to go out there and bust ass.
Agreed.
Like, I want to get better.
Tell
me what I did wrong so I can fix it.
And
so I
you
can do better.
It,
so I
can
most. Absolutely. Yeah. And I feed off of it. Like, I love that. Yeah. I want that.
You are kind of sick.
Yeah, I'm disgusting. Yeah, it's for sure. But somebody saw that very early, and I say very early like I'm not still very early in, but
earlier.
Yeah, but they said that in front of a lot of people, like a gathering of comics.
Right.
And I was like, motherfucker. And I wanted to crawl under the table, and it did backfire. And I pulled that person aside later, and I was like, hey, like, I really appreciate what I think you thought you were doing. But like, please don't do that to me again.
Did it put a target on you from your peers?
Yeah,
That's what
in
it
a
was?
big fucking way. Yeah.
Well, there's probably a way that, and I don't know the situation, I assume there's probably a way it could have been said or phrased that wouldn't have painted such a target. Like, you're great in front of 4 other people is rough.
It was it was a situation of like, brutal. Hey, nobody's out here hustling and doing what you should do. Look at this person who's busting their ass, and that's why they're getting all these gigs. And I'm like, are you cool? Thanks, guys.
I mean, on some level, though, I mean, I can't knock it.
Yeah,
like,
but
if it's true, it's true.
But then on the flip side, you're being told, you being me.
Yeah.
I mean, you've told me this a bunch of times. It's like, listen, I'm like, what do I need to be doing? Like, what is keeping me from booking a don't tell or whatever? Because I know I have so much to learn, but I also don't think I'm not funny, you know?
Well, it's a question of where do I learn it, I think, is the confusing thing. It's like when I was applying for jobs, they want 3 to 5 years of experience. Well, if I can't get a job, where the fuck am I going to pick up 5 years?
Right.
That is frustrating.
And whatever, and like I said, you've said this to me a couple times, but I get told this all the time. It's like time. Yeah. It takes time, and I'm like, cool. Yeah. Like, I'm going to be 70 before I get taken seriously.
And
like,
I've said this to you too. I think your eagerness is your biggest strength and probably your biggest frustrator, because it's like, I'm bumping the ceiling all the time, but the truth is you can't really force that ceiling to move up. It just naturally has to move. You can keep bumping it as you go, but in order to stay gassed up like that when you keep hitting your head can be difficult.
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, why am I even shooting for the moon if I can't get any higher than that?
Yeah. Well, and I think
that's where it starts to fade for people.
Yeah, and then when you have situations like we've talked about tonight, where like I run into stuff that I'm like, God, what am I doing? Like,
it's demoralizing.
It's so and you're playing a game like everything else. Like, I can't just go off because half the people I'm in the green room with are people that could book shows that could be a big deal for me, and so I can't just be like, listen, I'm about to fucking rip your dick off and feed it to you, because that's what I want to say. Right. But I can't do that in that situation.
I think because of that leverage or power dynamic, is sometimes how things like that go on to exist in this industry or other industries for so long. And I do think that probably more than ever, we're better as an industry about calling that out and isolating those people. And there are repercussions for things like that now. But at your level, it's not the same, or at the person's level who put you in that situation. It's not, it's like, it's one thing if world famous comedian so-and-so says this to you. There's a platform for that. There's a way for you to air that out. There's a road to redemption. If it's somebody nobody really knows, it's not no harm, no foul because it harmed you, but it's like, it's difficult to convince anybody that you have a grievance.
Yeah.
And even more so, like you said, that could negatively impact you moving forward about being honest about the things you face, which is so unfortunate.
Yeah.
And I can imagine very frustrating.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of the people that are booking agents in our area, most of them are males. Yeah. Not all of them are creepers. Some of them are.
Yeah,
but like,
I can name a few.
Yeah, same. Yeah. But I have to be very cognizant of that. No, like, and like you said, if somebody in Knoxville talks bad about you, you're going to know it. Like, you got to know what you're doing and what you say and what you don't, or to whom. And so, it just feels like, I hate that. I hate that. I'm not a good player of the game because fuck you. Like,
yeah. So you and I were talking about Bourdain before this because I have a Bourdain photo in my kitchen that we were looking at, and I'm a big Anthony Bourdain guy. For anybody who doesn't know, famous celebrity chef, tragic tale really, but look him up. Can't recommend enough. Big Bourdain guy my whole life, and his book Kitchen Confidential is a big part of me too. I read it very early in life, and it's really stuck with me. And one thing he mentions in there about like commanding a kitchen and being a head chef is the rumor mill and all these things. And he's like, I know what everybody had for breakfast in this kitchen. I know everything. And he goes, but it's not rumor and it's not ammunition. He goes, a captain needs to know what's going on his ship. He's like, it's how you smell mutiny. I think in comedy, while it is camaraderie is important, we're very much the captain of our own ships. So in that sense, it's like, I think it's in my best interest to know what everybody had for breakfast. You know, like I want to know the talk. I want to know what you're saying. Whether or not I act upon it varies on the individual. In my case, I don't. I just store it and, you know, get bitter and hold it forever. But I do think that, like, to some degree, it's pretty important to have this awareness of who's a creep and who's not and who books and who doesn't and all these things. Where it gets interesting is that people start lashing out or going public with that or trying to make a scene of it. That is not great for me.
I agree.
And I can imagine coming into it and being as new as you are and seeing that so quickly because you progress so fast. That's got to be almost more discouraging. Yeah,
and I think too, like we've talked a lot about me being a female, but my age too, you know, like being older in this, like I did this for fun. I didn't think I was ever going to get paid human dollars for this shit. You know, I didn't think I was going to drive to clubs because they were like, hey, come 2 hours away or 4 hours away. What? Yeah. You know, that was never, there was no plan for that.
Good.
And so for me, it's like, you know, you're fueled off of, am I doing well enough or did I suck bad enough that I need to prove it to myself again? And it's this, again, therapy overlap. It's this like fucking battle of wills for dopamine. Like my brain doesn't produce it, you know, serotonin's free floating and my brain's like, I'm good, you know? And so, you know, I have to search for it. And it's this dangerous game because as a comedian, you know, you see all these comics who battle depression or end up, you know, with serious, you know, addiction habits and all these things. And it's like, no shit, because I'm going to get up there and I'm going to feel the best I ever have and nothing will feel like it again. Or I'm going to get up there and I'm going to want to kill myself. Like there is not a gray area. There's just not. Not for me.
Rarely.
And so then when you get outside of that and you're dealing with other comics, it's like, this is not what pays my bills. No. I love it so much. Yeah. But like, I'm 43. I go to bed at 10 p.m. Like I've got to, you're telling me the show starts at, what do you mean? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so there's a lot of that. There's a lot of like you're talking about everybody talking about each other. I don't have time. I didn't do that when I was 13, so I'm sure as shit not doing it at 43.
It is very adolescent.
It's
very middle school.
I don't stop.
Now, I will say some of the content is just like with the Bourdain thing, where it's like, I do listen to that. And at times, I will be the first to admit I've been wrapped up in it, and it has affected me negatively. If anything, I am a promotion to not do that. But a lot of the content or the conversation can actually be important and at times even like valuable information, like you're saying with, you know, bookers who may be a creep. Like, I don't think that's rumor mill if another female comic tells you, hey, avoid that guy. But on some level, it does undermine this thing we're all here to do. Right. You know, it's the other part of it.
Well, and I think too, it's like you said something to me the last time I think we talked off mic, and it really, really stuck out. And you said somebody had told you, and I don't remember who, you know, every time you go up there, like it's everything or it's nothing. You know what I mean? Like you going up and doing a show could be the best thing ever, or it could be nothing, or you
everything
could go,
matters and everything doesn't matter.
Yeah. And so it's like I think about that because I didn't start this because I thought I was gonna get a bus tour and a Netflix special. You know, I'm not an idiot. You know,
some people do.
And but I see these comics that I respect so much, and I see the come up for them, and it's so cool, and that's encouraging to get behind them and stuff like that. Right. But then you see people who've been doing this for 25 years, and they're like, "Fuck you! I've been doing this for 25 years," and it's, you know, and they're so bitter and jaded, and it's like, man,
that's usually because they suck.
Well, sometimes, but there's a part of me that's like, you know, I will bust my ass, but there will be a time where I'm like, if I'm not good, I'm not good. You know, and that's just that, and that's okay.
Yeah, and well, so there's a lot that comes to mind, but like the idea that that you have this whole life outside of it, I think is also very important. Because in my case, I would be hesitant to say that I like love my life. You know, I'm not a golden retriever type of person. I'm just not. But I do think that I have other sources of dopamine and other sources of love and support and things in my life, you know, family, my amazing girlfriend and things like that, that like, if comedy were to go away, obviously that'd be devastating to me and my whole identity would have to shift. But I think in the long run, I'd survive. Where that gets tricky for folks is when they don't have all that other stuff. And it's either because they've sacrificed everything to this thing, and that is a real thing. I mean, you can give this game everything you have and it still doesn't work out.
Yeah.
More often, though, I think it's that you go into it wanting more than you're able to give it. You need an identity, and so you gravitate to this thing. And we're talking about the hustle earlier. I can think of some examples where the comedian is incredibly good at that. It's the other areas where they struggle. And I think normally you can get pretty damn far if you have a really good work ethic and, you know, you start making moves for yourself and you're good at connections and you're good at these things. You can really get pretty far in this thing. But if you don't have a true, genuine human love for the craft, you're just never going to get around it.
Yeah.
It's just, you're going to smell it.
Yeah.
The crowd smells it. The other comics smell it. People smell it. People know what you're doing. And you can get away with it for a long time. But I do think eventually, and again, some of this may just even be wishful thinking, where it's like, I like to think that karma strikes at a certain point and goes, if you're not giving to this thing, it almost feels... This is going to sound crazy. To me, comedy is almost sentient sometimes, where it's like you kind of got to build a little altar and you got to feed it some sacrifice before it gives you before the rain comes.
For sure.
You know, I've felt that way about it pretty much from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are really good at building the altar, but they don't put anything on it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, yeah, for sure. And it's just to circle back, I never said I love my life, so I just want to make sure that is very clear. Let's get that really ironed out. I certainly have other sources of dopamine, but I need a lot of it. I need a lot.
Yeah, me too.
You know, and I think that's very true for a lot of comics.
We're junkies.
Yeah, for sure. And so...
thank God we found comedy.
No kidding, because if I have to snort a line of Coke off the back of a toilet one more time, I've never done that because I would get addicted so fast.
Some people do that while doing comedy.
100%. But, you know, like... It's a hard sell to your partner, like, hey, stay home with these kids and do bedtime because I'm literally not going to be home till whatever o'clock in the morning.
Yes,
or
it is.
Telling my kids who want me to read them a story, and I'm like, actually, mommy's going to go like drink with her buddies and you know, fucking tell jokes to people and hope that she's funny. And
do they have any awareness of it at all?
Yeah,
do they care?
They think it's funny. They think it's like so. Okay,
they don't come to shows. They haven't seen your act.
Hell no.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I've never been at a that's another thing I was told is like, if I can't be a clean comic, then I'll never be a successful comic. And I was like, well, it looks like I'm bound for no success because I can't. I could take most sets that I have and just remove the F word and it would be clean-ish. Yeah. But like, I have a lot of comic friends that they intentionally do clean comedy because they want, like, they'll say things to me like, I want my kids to be proud of me. And listen, I want my kids to be proud of me too, but I say fuck at home. So
I think you should want them to be proud of you for being who you are.
Yeah.
So if you are as a clean comic, then great.
Great. I am unapologetically
typically those
not.
Clean comic guys that give you advice like that are some of the nastiest motherfuckers.
Oh, for
in
sure.
The world.
Yeah.
Off stage.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, absolutely.
It's one comes to mind who I actually really respect and love, but like does priority clean stuff, and then I've had conversations when it's just me and him where I go, "What the fuck did you just say to me?" Like. That generally, and in the reverse of that, some of the people who you on stage, you go, oh my God, what? Some of the normalest, nicest people. It's just,
I did a competition this summer because people were talking about comedy comps, and I was like, first of all, I live a competition. It's always a competition. Yeah. But I wanted to see what it was like, and it ended up being a thing, and it did really well, which I did not anticipate at all. Yeah. And so my kids now think every time I leave to do comedy, they're like, did you win? And I'm like, first of all, nothing could be farther from the truth. I never win. I never win.
like never once.
No, I had to try really hard to keep my car on the road all the way home. But, so in their minds, that's what it is. It's like, I'm going to like have fun with my friends and like tell jokes. And
I do think on some level there's something to learn in that though, of like, did you win? You're like, I never do. You did though. You know what I'm saying?
Is this the like motivational poster part of the show?
No, I think I've been on this weird thing the last few months with comedy where it's like I ran into some hurdles.
Okay.
Stepped away a little bit. Got in a car wreck, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Got forced to step away a little bit.
That was crazy.
Got to sit around a little bit, think about it. And it actually, for the first time since starting, I started going, do I want to play ball? It's never a question of do I want to be a comic. It's all I've ever wanted. It's all I want. I love it. When I'm on stage, there's nothing better. Everything else we've talked about is a lot. And it got to the point where it was like, is the thing I want worth it in spite of all those other things? The answer ultimately was yes. But I spent some time actually thinking about that question for the first time. And there is some level now of this, I hesitate to say newfound, because really this is an old thing for me, where it's like I've gotten back to this thing where I go, I just spent 2 hours hanging out with people I like, telling jokes, laughing, shooting the shit, whatever, having a few drinks, go up, maybe I bomb my ass off for 10 minutes, and then I get paid for that. And I won. You know? I do think that like there is some, because... And I have a niece who's 7, and sometimes she'll say things like that to me, not about comedy, but just about life. Like, I remember one time we were at the park, she was like 4, and we're outside, it was like a really sunny day, and she was like, Faniel, and I said, what? And she goes, what's the sun? And I was like, it's a giant flaming ball of fire that's millions of miles away, and it keeps us alive, but it'll burn you.
But don't be afraid, and don't look directly at it.
Don't look at it, but we need it. Like, how do you explain it? You know what I mean? But on her level, that question was so interesting to me. I think coming from your kids about comedy, it's almost a similar thing where I go, there's something to their ignorance of all the other shit that's blurred it for us. That they're able to go, did you win? And like, you kind of did. Like, just doing the thing.
They get so excited about that part of it, right? Like, because they can understand that part, you know? And when so I'm from Ohio, so I went back home, I don't know, August, September, and did some clubs around there because my best friend from first grade is a hustler, and she was like, when are you coming? I'm going to get you booked. Well, little did I know.
Your agent.
It was, she would be my manager if I needed one. But it was during the Columbus Comedy Fest, which I did not apply for. But she was like, called people, and she's like, this is what we're doing.
That's
and
crazy.
So I went, and she had t-shirts made. I didn't know that. It was like the most hilarious. It was so fun.
I need this lady on my team.
For real. She's amazing. Shout out to Jessica. You're my love. But so it was like, I felt like that weekend I was like, holy shit, like I'm doing it. And it was all these people from high school who, by the way, I didn't like you then, and it was the weirdest thing. Now you're showing up with a t-shirt. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
It's happened to me too.
But they were like, I can't believe you're doing this. This is so crazy. Blah, blah. And to them, I was this like, I had made it. And I'm like, I'm literally playing. I'm playing at a club that is like up the steepest flight of stairs ever. To a room that maybe sits 40.
Perfect.
Like, what? Okay. But to them, it's like you're doing this thing, and they see you online, and it's like, oh, you're doing all these shows.
You won.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's you and I, well, all comics, I think, hopefully, all the good ones that I respect are the people that when somebody goes, dude, I saw you're in Chattanooga next, that's amazing. We go, yeah. We can't internalize it for whatever reason. I've started to try to maybe just fake it. When somebody's like, dude, I saw blah, 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 that's awesome. I just go, it is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just faking it until I start to maybe believe it a little bit. Like, because whatever that receptor in your brain is, I just don't have where I should take it. Or when a person, and rarely does this happen, but if someone comes up to you after and goes, hey man, like one I have gotten several times, it's not, again, not braggadocious, but one I get a lot is like, I was raised by my grandparents. I relate to your material.
Yeah.
It's not, oh, you're the funniest comedian ever. It's what you said makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That is maybe the one space that I'm able to internalize, because that's like a human. That's outside of comedy. Where I go, oh, cool, man. That's cool. Like, did you eat weird food?
Yeah.
Did you eat Raisin Bran? Whatever. That, I think that transcends it for me.
Yeah.
So I'm working on like everything else, allowing it in a little bit. Because I mean, it is like, to a 14-year-old boy, oh, my mom's driving 4 hours to do comedy, is not the same as you going, I'm driving 4 hours for 4 minutes.
Yeah.
He don't care.
No.
If it's 30 seconds, it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. I think I say a lot, I'm working on believing that. To people. Because people are like, just say thank you. And I'm like, but I'm thanking them for what, making me feel fucking awkward. Like, I'm not thankful. That's like thanking when you pay a toll. My husband always does that. He's like, thank you. I'm like, fuck them. They just took our money. What do you mean?
That is
and he's like, they're just doing their job, you know?
Yeah.
But instead of that, I think like I'm working on believing that, like, or I appreciate that, you know, because I do, but it is awkward, and I think we're all just out here trying to figure it out.
Also, there's some guys who, if someone went up to them after a show and like, "Hey man, you're really funny," they'd be like, "I know." Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah.
And usually, you know, just like with everything else, it may be wishful thinking. I like to think the shit floats. You know, like you see it.
Yeah.
You see it, and the crowd feels it, and they know it, and it catches up eventually. But I do think like all of it is so interesting. The one thing I did want to ask you about, because this is one of my favorite conversations with other comics, and I don't know this about you. If you take me back to like pre-career, before you start comedy, then other career, pre-family, pre-everything, go back. When you're a kid, what's playing in the house or at a friend's house or whatever that makes you go, I like laughing. I like seeing other people laugh. And it doesn't have to be stand-up, but what's something funny that as a kid you were like, whatever that does to me, I like it. What's on the screen?
Oh, like what movie or what?
Movie, comic, cartoons. So what's the influence?
Okay, so first of all, back to the overlap with therapy. Literally, my first thought was, well, it was fucking atrocious living my life, and so I was like, if I can make you laugh, this is the part that makes me not want to kill myself, right?
I relate.
But okay, let's just focus on the TV show.
Yeah.
I was the kid who watched Eddie Murphy's Raw with my dad when I was like 5, like absolutely before I should have watched any of that shit.
Me too.
And so instead of wearing like a leather outfit like Michael Jackson, I wanted to be like that red leather outfit that Eddie Murphy wore, right? Lots of Richard Pryor. Loved Richard Pryor.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, for sure. And my dad loved the dirtiest ass dudes that like, and I watched it from the time I was a little girl. Like that's what I remember. And I loved being in front of people, and I loved, you know, it was tough growing up and didn't have a whole lot. And
were you able to be open about those things? Like, could that become, like in my case, I have all the same exact influence from my dad.
Yeah.
And he would show me these things. But I had split parents. So when I go home, it was get ready for church.
Oh, shit.
Don't cuss. Sex is bad. Men are gross. You know, like it was very, so I had to kind of hide this whole other world.
Yeah.
But in your case, it sounds like you were able to adopt this persona and become.
Oh, yeah. Well, my parents were unhappily married forever until my dad died. Like,
that's always good.
You know, so yeah, they were just codependent, toxic fucks for 43 years. And so, no, I didn't have to hide it, but like that got me through a lot of shit, you know, because when things are hard and you can laugh about it, or you can, like I said, you know, I was the fat kid. So if I could get the laugh first, then I was smarter, I was faster, I was quicker, you know? And so like, I'll be damned if you're going to get one up on me, you know? And hell, I was fighting dudes in like 6th grade. Like, I didn't give a fuck.
If you're laughing with me, you're not laughing at me.
100%. Yeah, for sure.
That's a classic.
And so I just, like, I remember being in classes and all my friends were guys, and one of my best friends, like, all growing up, we would sit. Now, I'm, like, old enough to be your mother, so we would sit with, like, our Discman and one headphone, because, you know, they didn't come apart. There was no, like, wireless things.
Oh, yeah.
And we'd sit there in the back of the choir room and listen to Adam Sandler, you know, comedy albums. Yeah. And just be cracking up and, like, telling each other shit.
What age is this?
Junior high,
so as formative as it gets.
For sure.
Yeah.
And like, you know, imitating that and you know, that was very formative for me. Sure. And I saw these guys out here that were just regular ass dudes. They weren't hot, they weren't, you know, rich, they were just out here being comedians. Funny, you know? And that appealed to me so much, like, because I didn't have money, I was not attractive. It was just like you know, but I can do this. I can make people laugh and we have fun.
In an ideal world, in my mind's ideal world, that's what a comedian is. You know, and I think, like, I'll use the Chris kid that we were talking about earlier too. I love Chris is a perfect example of that. Where it's like, I don't know him super personally, but I can imagine, based off my interactions with him, that this is just who he is. Yeah. Like, how many, there's a lot now, because stand-up is as big as it is, and everyone wants to do it. You're seeing actors fucking quit acting to go to, it's a weird time.
Yeah.
But there's one comic that I get suggested on Instagram occasionally where she's like super attractive. You know, her outfits are ridiculous. Like, she's going to fucking prom on stage. The cleavage, all that shit. But then the jokes are just not there.
Yeah.
So it's like, if the jokes were there too, I'd have no problem with all of that. But the jokes are not there. So, but it's supposed to be, or another example is all these fucking third string quarterbacks that never played in high school, but they love Shane Gillis, and now they're like, well, I suck at everything else in life. I'm going to go be a fucking comedian. It's all the time, but it's not supposed to beat that
Yeah.
originally. You know, it was weirdos.
Yeah.
It was fucking weirdos who had no other option.
Yeah. And you know, I love that you said that, because I have a lot of female comics that I adore right now, that I love, and they're so smart, and their writing is smart, and their delivery is smart. And
who is that? Who's a few of those?
So, you know, I love Amber Autry.
Oh,
fucking love. I would kiss her on the mouth. Love her.
Adore.
Jordan Jensen. Wonderful. Love her. So I saw her show at Zany's 2 years ago on a trip with one of my girlfriends from high school, and Jordan jokes about her dad dying, and she jokes about being made fun of. People think she's a lesbian, and she jokes about losing a bunch of weight and having her surgery. And my friend is sitting beside me, and she's like, my dad had just died, and she goes, are you okay? And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I would say all these jokes. And I signed up for the class right after that.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was like, I left there not thinking I'm funny as her, but like, I can do this. Like,
well, it showed you that, like, because, I mean, if you grew up on Eddie Murphy, you go, well, I can't relate. I didn't have a hot comb greasing through my hair. Right. I can't relate to that.
Yeah.
You know, my mom never threw a shoe at me and it acted like a boomerang or whatever.
Yeah.
All of his stuff is entertainment, but it's not relatable.
Right.
When it hits you like that, like Jordan for you, you go, it's not even so much like I can do that. It's like, oh, that's me. She's talking to me.
Well, and those two particular women, like, they do a lot of crowd work too. And I love that shit. I love just like meeting people and talking to them and like riffing off of what's going on. And it doesn't even have to be like tearing them apart, although that's super fun.
It's always fun.
But like just learning about new people and where you meet them, and you're like having a conversation, which is why I was funny to begin with, right? Yeah. And so it's that human connection you're talking about. But I see these women and I'm like, before, I just respected them as comedians and I thought they were hilarious. And now that I've been doing it, I respect them even more. But I also am like, it's so funny because I hear what you're saying about that particular female comedian. I can probably guess who it is. But so many
I don't know her name.
Many of us go up there, though, and we're in, like, I'm in ripped jeans and a T-shirt that's up to here.
Yeah.
And because if we're not, we get called out for all this other stuff. And it's like...
And you spent the first chunk of the episode talking about how you don't want to be identified as just that thing.
Yeah.
So if you're leaning into... And in this particular person's case, and again, I don't really know her name, but I'm sure she's making a lot more money than I am at it, and is probably having a lot of... So kudos. Do whatever the fuck you want. But I would imagine that on the lowest, deepest level, she doesn't actually give a shit about comedy.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's not why you're up there. And maybe she does, and good kudos to her again. But, like, the connection thing, the relatability thing is so important. I think that, like, a lot of people love comedy. But when a person loves a comedian, it's because they relate to what they're saying.
100%.
It's a different thing.
Absolutely.
You know, like, I'll listen to all sorts of comedy. But, like, one example, and I actually was going to talk about this earlier, is... when I started, so when I was 19, I had just pretty much anything in life that could go wrong when you're 19 went wrong for me in the span of about 6 months. Crash your car, lose your job, break up with your girlfriend, go off to college, mom sick, divorce, move out, you name it, all of it. All happens. I don't know what to do. And because I was raised by a therapist, I had this kind of, I guess, chip on my shoulder thing a little bit, where it's like, well, I see how she is outside, you know, so I don't trust, a distrust for it.
Yeah.
Because I had this false notion that therapists are supposed to be perfect humans. I saw through the veil and whatever. Anyways, I'm in college at the time. I go to the counseling center. I get free sessions. I sign up. I meet this guy. And I actually wanted the female because I was like, due to the lack of male presence in my life, I relate more to female. I think I can do it. That's also probably why I don't give off creepy vibes, because I just was raised by all women. So, and they were like, you're not going to be gross. They placed me with a male. And they were like, due to the lack of male presence, we think you need this, actually. The same reason I thought I didn't. Place me with him. One of our first sessions together, this is 3-4 years before I ever touched a mic or started doing comedy. We start talking about stand-up. And I was like, I love stand-up. I've always loved stand-up. Music and stand-up, two most important things to me. And he was like, do you know who Nate Bargatze is? And at the time I didn't. This is 2018, 19. And I was like, no, I don't know who that is. And he's like, well, you should check out, he has a special called Tennessee Kid.
Yeah.
And he has a joke in there where he talks about how his name's Nathaniel, but some people call him Nathan. Some people call him, a lot of people know this bit. I'd never heard it.
Fucked up his airline tickets.
Fucked up his airline tickets. Did we just shoot this guy or what? Like, the whole joke, right? So I go and I watch this and I'm like, oh my God, same thing. Where you go, this is me. He's talking my whole life. People didn't say my whole name, all this shit. So I'm like, that's insane. And then I start talking to my therapist about it. I go, he's great. I never met this guy. And he goes, I'm a big fan of him. He has a production company called Nateland, and there's all these guys. There's Aaron Weber and there's Brian Bates.
Yeah.
Right? So then a year or two goes by. I'm no longer in college, so I have to stop seeing my therapist. Pandemic hits right as I'm tail into college. Leave college. I'm not in therapy. My therapist quits doing therapy. He goes and sells insurance for therapists or something to provide for his family. A couple years go by. He starts his own private practice. I find out about it. I reach out. That's 2.5 years ago now, and I've been back with him ever since.
Oh, that's so awesome.
In between that, though, while I haven't seen him in probably 2 years, and he's not even doing therapy anymore, he comes to Blue Ridge to see Brian Bates, and I'm hosting. And I go up.
Get out!
Isn't that the weirdest full circle, like, strangeness? He and I talk about that now, but there's these weird little serendipitous things in comedy and in my life where I go, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I can't explain. I'm not a religious guy. I'm not a spiritual I don't know what it is. Whatever happened, I was meant to follow up to that point. Now, since then, who knows? Maybe I'm way off track. But I think that up to that point,
I love that
was like such a weird, like this guy came to me in the worst time of my life, said, check out this guy. I love everything he does, and he's friends with this person. I don't see that therapist for years. And then I start comedy, unbeknownst to him. He had no idea.
So wild.
And they announce, are you ready for the show tonight? Coming up to the stage, your host. And I fucking, and he's in the front row. And he winked at me when I went up there. I'll never forget.
No
and I was like, oh, like,
you just had this whole moment.
Like having my dad there or something. I mean, I just like shriveled, but I did fine. You know, I handled depression, did fine. And then afterwards, I got to introduce him to Brian, who I'd been working with, all these, like, such a crazy, weird, full circle thing. And so it's like, because of those moments and moments like that, I know that in me, this is what I am.
Yeah.
What we've been talking about, the leverage, all those things, and all the ego, all these different things. I feel very strongly that a lot of those examples don't have those things. They don't have those moments with comedy. It's a business to them. It's an identity to them. They don't have that. They have, I have moments, and I think maybe, again, I'll kind of just be vague about it just for my own sake, but like there's moments where I have felt undeniably I was meant to be in that spot in that moment and meet that person and do that show, even if it went poorly. It's not even necessarily I had a great show. For whatever reason, there's like the curtains peel back a little bit and I feel like I'm in the right spot.
Yeah.
And I can't help but wonder how guys who never feel that continue to go on.
Yeah.
And I think the answer is they're getting something else out of it. And a lot of times it's not good.
Yeah.
What they're getting out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's rough.
Yeah.
But it exists and it's a pretty high percentage maybe.
I was going to say, I would imagine. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I agree. I think when you're doing this work, people, another therapy overlap, like my job is fucking hard. Yeah, sure. It is so hard. Yeah, and even though, and I love it. And I know every day how fortunate I am. Yeah. But at the same time, like there are days where I'm like, what day is it today? Saturday? Yesterday, I was like, why the fuck am I even doing this? Like, when I was, seriously, I left work, I was like, what the fuck? It was just one of those days, you know? And it's the same with comedy. Like you have to love it or I don't think you'll have the endurance to keep doing it, I think a lot of guys love what it gives them, but they don't love what they give it, if that makes sense. And I say guys, really, that could be female comics, that could be anybody. I think that just like with everything else in life, there are people who are in it for the wrong reasons and manage to get enough out of it to keep going on the wrong reasons, and that can be very discouraging to the folks who aren't in that category. Yeah. Yeah. And it's only logical, I think, that you would go, do I want to be a part of that game? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, like I said, you were asked, like, why do you keep doing this after I've had experiences like that? It truly is like, when I was looking at my planner and I was like, shit, I've got to come and do this fucking podcast about comedy. Great. I'm so excited. After having that situation happen that literally just really kind of kicked my legs out from underneath me. And it takes a lot to do that to me. Right. But it leveled me. Like, I mean, that's a very jarring experience. And so I come out of that and I'm like, I had a friend of mine that's another female comic that wanted to like meet up and write, and she's great and I respect her, and I was like, I appreciate that so much. I would love to do that with you, but I need like a month to just fucking recover. Like I need to just breathe. I'm not going to do any shows, whatever. But then as soon as I got here, I was like, hell yeah, like let's do this, because I respect you and what you're doing and the work you've already done, and I've seen you on stage and just you bust ass behind the scenes and what you do for other comics, and that makes me excited. Like that gives me energy to keep doing it. And especially when you're somebody who's so new into it, when someone you respect, regardless of how you see your success level, that's irrelevant to me, honestly. Right. Because if I respect the work that you do, it makes me want to hustle harder.
Yeah.
Like if you see something in me, I'm like, hell yeah, like I'm going to keep pushing for that, you know? And at some point I have to just be like, all right, you guys are just a bag of dicks and you need to go over here and like live your life, whatever. I'm just not going to be a part of it, you know? And that sucks, but it's part of anything you're going to do.
It is. And I think one distinction too, and I don't, far be it for me to ever say anything nice about me. The one distinction maybe that does separate me is that I think I was maybe a little pushier with you and Chris than anybody ever before, but I'm never the person that walks up and just goes, you want some unsolicited advice? Typically, in my experience, whoever's telling you what to do is the one you should not be listening to. So like in my case, you came to me, is at least my memory of it, of like, I respect you, can you give me some guidance? And that's uncomfortable for me because I don't see myself that way. But in that case, I didn't mind giving it or doing it, or, you know, whereas like, I just am never going to walk up to a person and go, here's what you need to do. Because I don't fucking know. I don't know what I'm doing. I do know the hustle, though. And so when I see you doing that, it's not very difficult for me to encourage you to keep doing that. You know, writing, jokes aside, because it's, and you and I run into this a lot, where it's like your style is so different than mine. Your voice is so different. I can throw some tags at you maybe. And like the roast was easier because that's not your, it doesn't have to be your style. But like it's so individual. But it's also a team sport. It's just a weird, comedy's weird. It's so weird. People ask me, you know, I have like people in your life who you know and you see, right? Like my my barber she's amazing. I see her once a month or whatever, and I have since I was like 16. And she's kind of followed me on this whole journey. And every time I go, she's, you know, how is it, and all this stuff. And it's like you don't want to sound like depressing all the time, but I also want to be honest with her and go, whatever you think, it's not that. You know, it's not all like you've seen too many movies. Maybe it's not that. You want to be real about it. But when it's with another comic, I think you have to be real about it.
Yeah, I would hope so, because otherwise you're setting people up to just get discouraged and quit. Although, there's two sides to every coin, I guess. It's like, you know, you're either going to give up or you're going to be so, like, you're already so full of yourself that that's what will carry you. Or you are...
That's a rough one.
Yeah, or you're self-deprecating, like in my case, and I'm just like, I just suck at this, and, you know, whatever. And then somebody says somebody that I respect says something that contradicts that, and I'm like, wait a second, for real? And that's what catches me. That's what will keep me on the hook for a little longer, is like, oh, I had no idea that I could make this person laugh. Because you don't see it when you're the one in it.
You don't. And I mean, I'm thinking now, like back to some of the influences you named too. And again, a lot of them are crossovers to my own. But like one thing, I was in a green room last week at a show at Blue Ridge with Peyton Williams, who I've always loved that kid. And then Chris was in there and a couple others. And we're just like, and Grampy's in there. We're talking about comedy. And I didn't really know Chris that well. So I'm asking him some of his influences. And he was like, is there... Somebody asked the question of like, what are comics we should be watching, you know, at our level? And I go, well, I'm probably not a good example of that, because I was like, for booking purposes, I need to have my thumb on the pulse and know who's hot and who's whatever right now. But as far as what I love, I go backwards. And I was like, so I felt like Conan is a huge guy for me. At night, he would put me to bed in high school. So I love Conan. I know who Conan's influences are. So if I trace that backwards, I also love them. I find out. And then if you find out who they love. So like, you know, if you go to Eddie, he would probably say Pryor. So then you find Pryor, you love Pryor. Who does Pryor love? Like when you can track that shit too, I do think that gives you some greater, broader picture of this flow as a whole and go, well, I'm at the bottom of this, but I have influences. So eventually I'm not going to be at the bottom of this. I might be an influence to somebody. Once you understand that it's a flow and it's a chain, so to speak, and you're somewhere in that, I do think that's valuable. And I think that's only if you obviously take it serious and respect the thing. But like, it's just such an uncomfortable place for people to be, to go, I'm someone's influence. I hate it. I hate it.
That's wild.
I don't like it. But if it is true, I think you just need to go, good. Like you just embrace it a little bit and go, fine, I'll keep going and not screw that up, you know. And on some, I think the reason it's uncomfortable for me is it adds a certain level of like pressure or expectation.
I was gonna say it's the responsibility and expectation of like, well, now I've got to not be shit.
Yes. However, on the flip side of it, it almost motivates too. Because it's like, well, now I gotta keep busting ass because people are watching.
Well, and I think you can learn something from everyone, even if it's how not to be. Like,
I've learned
a shit ton about that. I mean, in this business for sure.
Yeah.
Is like,
well, I used to say that about, growing up with my dad a lot, where it's like, in spite of all his flaws, one thing he was always really good at was showing me what not to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was because he had lived it and he would tell me. Sometimes it was because I watched him and knew I shouldn't do that. But if you're a person who can build a map off of the wrong steps to take, I do think that's a valuable skill set.
Yeah. I say all the time, like, for all the shit that I carry as an adult from my dad, he always said, if you don't like your boss, become your own. Like, I remember him saying that so young.
Oh, yeah.
And he started mowing grass at 17 for the water and wastewater department in this tiny ass little town beside where I grew up, and ended up being in charge of the wastewater department. Like, he retired with government salary and everything. And
my grandpa worked in wastewater.
Right. And I used to tell people, like, my dad owns runs the shit plant, and I would just, and whatever. But that stuck with me, and I've done that because I don't like to answer to people. I mean, that probably surprises you, but I make my own rules. Like, I don't, fuck that.
I'm blown away.
I know. And so I've just lived that way, and it's been hard as hell, but like, there's such payoff to it. Like, yeah, you got to bust your ass and you got to do it wrong and fall on your face so many times, but like, then you can be a pathway for somebody else to do it.
And this is maybe a good point in the episode to point out that both of us don't know what the fuck we're talking
about. Not at all.
Okay, so like, sometimes when I put clips of this show out, I go, I sound so arrogant in that clip. But like, if you listen to 30 seconds later, I follow it with, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Like, it's all truth from experience, right? So it's like, in our mutual experience, these are the things that have applied to us. And I think sometimes that's also part of the reason I'm so hesitant to give others advice or guidance, is because I go, well, it worked for me, but who the fuck knows if it's going to work for you? Because the truth is, all the things that didn't work for me that somebody told me to do, maybe that's what I'm passing on too. Shit that's not going to work. It's like, you got to find your own lane, kind of.
I think too, the way you deliver it is like, I don't know, like, this may not work for you, or who am I? When people come in and they're like, listen, you got to do it like this, I already am not listening to you. I'm really not. And that doesn't mean because I know more. It's just because you sound like an ass. Like,
some of it too is, it's their own truth too. That's I think that's maybe a distinguishing factor here, is like, you and I have an awareness that our personal truth might not apply to everyone.
Right.
Some people don't have that. Some people think, well, it worked for me, so you got to do it this way. And I think sometimes it's age or generational too. Like, the clean comedy thing you mentioned earlier stuck out to me, because that used to be a thing. That used to be, if you can work clean, you can get on the cruise ships and then you can support yourself. Who the fuck wants to be a cruise ship comedian?
No, thank you.
I mean, no slight to those guys. In fact, my good friend of mine, Stephen Henry, does those ships, and he's very successful and he loves it. And I've talked to him many times, and honestly, if they offered it, I'd probably fucking take it. But the thing with that is, like, if you have to sacrifice who you are to be that thing, then in my mind, it's just not worth it.
No. If I've learned anything in my lifetime, I'm currently learning a hard lesson on this right now, is like, protect your peace. Whatever that means for you, nothing is worth your peace. Just nothing. And so, like,
protect your peace.
Protect it, because, I can only give so much to my kids, but I can show them what it means to go after what you want and work really hard for that. And maybe I am opening for Nate Bargatze. Maybe I just do comedy in the Tri-Cities, but I'm having fun. You know what I mean? So who's to say one is better than the other? You know what I mean? Like,
right. It's like, objectively, somebody may look at those two options and go, well, obviously, but there's a lot of people who do the one that I cited earlier, where she says, I just want to do it here. I don't want to be a world famous comedian. I'm past that. I have kids. I have all these things. This is why I do this. Is what I need to get out of it. And she does every week. She gets that out of it, and she's happy. And I'm so jealous.
I was going to say, I'm envious of that, because I'm like, man, you fucking suck again.
I want more, and I don't deserve it, and I'm the worst. It's exhausting. But protecting your peace is a great piece of advice, I think. And again, like, just like you said, that could be, because a lot of people, and if you made it this far, God bless you for listening. I think a lot of people who listen to the show are not other comedians, and a lot of like, my family listens to the show, and a lot of my friends support the show and stuff. So it's like, if you can't relate to the word comedy, hopefully this conversation, I think, truly is a broader conversation about whatever it is you love in life. I think when I had the other Dr. Disc on, we talked about psychology and comedy, but then we transitioned that to music, and then towards the end he worked in pickleball, because he's a big pickleball enthusiast. And it's like, really, whatever it is, if you're obsessed with it, This conversation is about obsession, work ethic, commitment, sacrifice. Those are like human things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But peace is another one.
Well, and I think too, as it pertains to comedy, like when I had that thing happen, that was just kind of fucking rocked me. That choosing my peace was choosing to not do comedy for
right. And there's a lot of guys that would have said, never take a week off. If you're off 3 days, it's over. Give it up. Like,
say yes to everything. I'm like, dude, absolutely not. Like,
it's another. I do think it's another old school thing, and I think there's some merit to it. You know, just like as a kid, my grandpa's very much like, if you're sick, you get up, you put your boots on, you go to work. I think there's something to that.
Sure.
Also, if I'm sick, I'm not going to work. Like, I think it's not mutually exclusive. Both can be right, just depending on the situation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Brynn, do you have anything coming up that you want to promote? Socials, whatever.
So socials are Brynn B Comedy. Brynn is Brynn, so it looks like Brian, but it isn't.
Brynn B.
Yep, Brynn B Comedy on Instagram and Facebook. I think I have a TikTok. I don't post anything there because I don't have time for that.
All right.
And no, I don't have shows coming up because I am about to get hysterectomized. I'm so excited. Ute free is the way to be. I'm super pumped up about that.
Heard it here first.
Heard it here first, folks. So
I'll put a breaking news banner along.
No, I'm going to go see Nate Bargatze in Knoxville on the 25th or something like that. But
that'll be
no,
great.
I probably won't say yes to anything until February because
Yeah.
I don't want to get up there and make myself laugh so hard, you know, that I blow out my fallopian tubes or something.
Don't want to do that.
Would be bad.
Boy, I've done that on stage.
I'm sure
you
have.
Good.
It's bad,
I blew all 6 of them? I don't know how many there are.
There's at least 6, yeah.
I don't know. Tubes. I don't know. Okay, so follow her TikTok. That's where she posts everything.
I post everything there for sure.
But at some point, you're going to return to shows for sure.
Yeah.
I know you will. So follow along, see where she goes.
Yeah.
You know, who knows? Blue Ridge, The Catch, who knows?
Yep.
The world.
The world.
Lots of possibilities.
The world, yeah.
Who knows? Thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks.
it. Guys,
Appreciate
thanks for
it.
listening. Bye.